Chapter 45, Blind Date with the Second Young Lady _1 Jianghu Valley. Within an ancient, exquisitely unique small building, Father, you're actually making me marry that Lu Chongsheng. You know as well as anyone that Lu Chongsheng is incredibly lecherous. Not only has he married 9 women from our Lu family, but he also brings women from outside back home. I heard that not long ago he went out and brought back 2 seductive fox spirits. How can you make me marry such a man? A stunningly beautiful young woman around 18 or 19, dressed in a black gauze dress, angrily looked at the patriarch of the Lu family in front of her. Huaner, although Lu Chongsheng may be a bit flirtatious, he is decent in other aspects. He's down to earth, treats his wives and concubines quite well, and is very considerate and caring, her father explained. Moreover, just yesterday, Lu Chongsheng was promoted to a first-grade middle-grade talisman master. He has been with our Lu family for just over 4 years, only touching talisman making for 3.5 years. During those 3.5 years, our Lu family didn't bestow any special resources or training on him. Under such circumstances, his reaching the level of a first-grade middle-grade talisman master so quickly shows that he has a remarkable gift for talisman making, far surpassing your sister. Unless something unexpected happens, he's likely to become a second-rank talisman master in the future. If you marry him, I will also rest assured. Lu Yuanding was earnestly trying to persuade his daughter. After the idea of having his daughter, Lu Miaohuan, marry Lu Chongsheng came to him during a recent meeting, the more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. So, once the meeting finished, he went to his daughter's residence to discuss the matter. He hoped to convince his daughter to marry Lu Chongsheng, a first-grade middle-grade talisman master. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaohuan's beautiful eyes showed a hint of surprise. As a young lady of the Lu family, with her sister being a talisman master, she naturally knew how extraordinary it was for Lu Chongsheng to become a first-grade middle-grade talisman master under such conditions. To call him a genius in talisman making was no exaggeration. No wonder her father wanted her to marry Lu Chongsheng. If Lu Chongsheng truly became a second-rank talisman master one day, that status would make him a guest of honor wherever he went. Even if he didn't become a second-rank talisman master, being a first-grade top-level talisman master was still quite remarkable. She was aware that the 4th elder, who taught her sister talisman making, was a first-grade top-level talisman master. He brought considerable stable profits to the Lu family every year and held a high status. But when she thought of all that Lu Chongsheng had done, and how he had ogled her the first time she and her sister met him, she felt uncomfortable all over, unwilling. Seeing his daughter's reluctance, Lu Yuanding sighed and continued to persuade her. Huaner, your mother passed away early, and your father hasn't really governed or scolded you much, but in this matter, I truly have your best interests at heart. I hope you'll listen to me. This time Lu Chongsheng has become a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, and in light of his fine performance over the years, our Lu family decided to marry a woman with the spiritual root to Lu Chongsheng, truly incorporating him as one of our own. Quite a few of the elders and clan seniors want to marry their granddaughters to Lu Chongsheng. This priority chance was still something I fought for you. You're also not getting any younger and should consider this matter. At this moment, Lu Yuanding was not the patriarch of the Lu family, but a father, somewhat wistful as he spoke. If Lu Miaohuan had been more promising, like Lu Miaoga, he naturally wouldn't have worried about his daughter's marriage. After all, cultivators not marrying is quite a normal, common occurrence. But Lu Chongsheng only has a 9th-grade spiritual root, and so many wives and concubines. Lu Miaohuan, hearing her father's words and seeing his attitude, pressed her lips together as she spoke. She hadn't expected that her father's permission for her to marry Lu Chongsheng was actually an opportunity he had fought for. But upon reflection, she could understand the rationale behind it. Jianghu Mountain hosted hundreds of Lu family disciples. Although these disciples possessed spiritual roots, most of them had limited prospects and little hope for foundation establishment. When they reached a certain age, many would have their marriages arranged by the family, joining with other cultivation families in the vicinity. This was how these cultivation families continued to develop and maintain a steady inflow of new blood. Lu Chongsheng, having entered the Lu family as a live-in son-in-law, always living with the Lu family, and showing good behavior, he was considered almost one of their own. Now that he displayed such talent in talisman making, it was only natural for the clan's elders to be very willing to marry a female disciple with a spiritual root to Lu Chongsheng, tying him completely to the Lu family. The 9th grade spiritual root doesn't matter. With Lu Changsheng's talent in talisman making, as long as our Lu family is willing to invest in him, although foundation establishment may be out of reach, hoping to cultivate to the energy refinement late stage is still possible. A 2nd grade talisman master at the late stage of energy refinement would even earn a degree of respect from a foundation establishment great cultivator. As for wives and concubines, you needn't worry about that. Lu Changsheng's current wives are mere mortal women. If you marry him, you will naturally be his principal wife, and with your father here, how could I let you suffer any disadvantage? Seeing his daughter no longer being so obstinate, Lu Yuanding seized the opportunity to strike while the iron was hot. After listening to her father's words, Lu Miaohuan pursed her lips, remaining silent. In her mind, she recalled the Lu Chongsheng she had met before, who suddenly didn't seem so detestable anymore. After all, with her charm, anyone who saw her would inevitably take a few more glances, especially a lecher like Lu Chongsheng. Seeing his daughter like this, Lu Yuanding's face broke into a smile, knowing she had tacitly agreed. He gently proposed, "How about this, Miaohuan, tomorrow I'll invite Lu Chongsheng to the Bamboo Heart Lodge, and you can meet him there." Lu Miaohuan murmured a barely audible response. Lu Chongsheng was in the backyard playing with the children. Having so many kids, he had built quite a few toys in the yard. There were swings, slides, seesaws, trampolines, wooden horses, toy cars, and so on. But at this moment, a group of little tykes was lining up to play flying with him. He was using the levitation skill to let the little ones fly around in the air. Or he would put the little ones on the wooden horses or toy cars and use the object manipulating technique to fly them around in the air, to the great delight of the little ones, who screamed with joy. Just then, Lu Chongsheng heard one of his wives say that Lu Bo had come over. He immediately knew it must be the response to his becoming a first-grade middle-grade talisman master. He asked his wives to watch the children while he quickly went to the living room. "Lu Bo." Lu Chongsheng greeted him with a slight bow. Not bad at all." Observing Lu Chongsheng in front of him, Lu Bo suddenly nodded in approval. He had not paid much attention before, but now that he took a closer look, Lu Chongsheng could indeed be considered a handsome talent. Lu Chongsheng was somewhat puzzled by Lu Bo's looks and manner. "Lu Chongsheng, the family head wants you to prepare well for tomorrow, to go to the Bamboo Heart Lodge for a marriage meeting," Lu Bo said with a smile. "What? The family head wants me to prepare for a marriage meeting at the Bamboo Heart Lodge tomorrow?" Upon hearing this, Lu Chongsheng looked puzzled. He had been wondering if revealing his status as a first-grade middle-grade talisman master would lead to any improved treatment within the Lu family. He hadn't expected that the patriarch of the Lu family would actually want him to attend a marriage meeting. However, Lu Chongsheng quickly realized that this marriage meeting was probably not a simple affair. Seeing Lu Changsheng's reaction, Lu Bo then cheerfully said, "That's right. Due to your ascent to becoming a first-grade middle-grade talisman master and your performance over the years, the family head has decided to betroth his daughter to you." Upon hearing Lu Bo's words, Lu Chongsheng was shocked and simultaneously overjoyed. The image of the dignified and fairy-like Miss Lu Miaoga immediately surfaced in his mind. But the next moment, Lu Bo's words dispelled his fantasy. "Tomorrow you go meet her, perform well, and if it's settled, you will truly become one of the family. Don't you want children with spiritual roots? The second miss has a 6th-grade spiritual root, so if you marry her, the children you have in the future are very likely to inherit spiritual roots too," Lu Bo spoke with a chuckle. He already had a favorable opinion of Lu Chongsheng. Now that the Lu family was considering fully integrating Lu Chongqing as one of their own, he felt even closer to Lu Chongqing, as if he were already family. Chapter 46, Blind Date, Part 1_1 Second Miss. Lu Chongqing, hearing this, immediately realized he had thought too much. It was not the eldest miss, Lu Miaoge, but rather her younger sister. The one he had once seen at the heart of the bamboo lake, the black silk. It made sense, after all, Lu Miaoge was not only beautiful and talented but also a talisman master. Under normal circumstances, how could the Lu family possibly marry her off, especially to him? But marrying off the second miss to him was no small matter, either. After all, this second miss not only possessed a 6th grade spiritual root but was also the daughter of the patriarch of the Lu family. It seemed his advancement to 1st grade middle grade talisman master and the display of his talent for talisman making had convinced the Lu family to invest heavily, intent on binding him completely to the Lu family. Thinking of that memorable pair of black silk high heels and long legs, Lu Chongqing nodded his head and cupped his hands, saying, "Lu Bo, I will make sure to arrive on time for the appointment tomorrow." Even if he guessed that the Lu family was trying to deepen the bond with him, to completely tie him to the Lu family, Lu Chongqing did not feel any repulsion. In fact, he was quite willing. It wasn't because of the second miss looks, or her black silk high heels and long legs. But rather, his journey outside during the 3-year agreement made him realize that the world was far more dangerous and difficult than he had imagined. With his temperament, he would have a hard time making his way in such a world. Not to mention, he now had a family to look after. So, Lu Chongqing had completely come to terms with his situation. Since he had the system of many sons and blessings, he would just honestly bide his time with the Lu family. Lurking until the children were numerous, grown up, and he had made a breakthrough in the foundation establishment stage, only then would he consider the future. Even though it was like living under someone else's roof, because of his talent for talisman making, the Lu family had treated him well over the years since he moved to Jianghu Valley. They were indeed a proper cultivation family. It was certainly safer than being alone outside. If he were to marry the daughter of the patriarch of the Lu family this time, he would not only have a wife with a spiritual root, but he would also be truly seen as one of their own by the Lu family. He could then live in the Lu family more at ease, without any worries for the future. As for leaving the Lu family, he still harbored thoughts of leaving and establishing himself independently, but that seemed quite far off for now, and Lu Chongqing was too lazy to think too much about it. When that time came, if the Lu family treated him well, he would not mistreat them even if he decided to leave. Good. Lu Bo affectionately patted Lu Chongqing on the shoulder and said, "The matter with the second miss has already been settled by the family head, so as long as you perform well tomorrow, there shouldn't be any problems, and the matter will be considered settled." Yes. Lu Chongqing nodded, acknowledging the words and seeing Lu Bo out the door. However, his mind involuntarily recalled Lu Miaohuan's noble and icy demeanor. Thinking of how he had been scolded for taking a couple of extra looks at the black silk, being chastised with "look again and I'll gouge out your eyes." He felt that the second miss might not be easy to serve, and the meeting tomorrow was really hard to predict. I hope the family head did settle things well and that the second miss has restrained her temperament a bit, not as bad as I imagined. Otherwise, even with a 6th grade spiritual root, daughter of the family head, would have to let it go. Lu Chongqing took a deep breath and let it out, returning to the courtyard. While he was quite willing to welcome this marriage, he was not about to lose his dignity and go begging to be married off, even if it meant having a 6th grade spiritual root for his child's mother. Setting aside his pride and dignity, as someone with 4 wives, 6 concubines, and 2 cherished mistresses, he really didn't have the mental spirit or energy to cater to someone temperamental. Adding such a wife to the inner courtyard could easily disturb the balance and peace of his harem and disrupt the proper family hierarchy. "Husband, did Lu Bo visit with news of some happiness?" At that moment, one of his wives looked towards Lu Chongqing and inquired. Hehe, your husband has made a breakthrough in the talisman path recently and has been promoted to a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, so Lu Bo came over to discuss some matters with me, Lu Changsheng said. He did not mention that Lu Bo had come to discuss matters of a matchmaking engagement. After all, telling his wives that he was going on a blind date tomorrow would feel very awkward. That was something to be discussed only once it was certain. What? My husband has been promoted to a middle-grade first-rank talisman master. My husband is truly remarkable. My husband has been promoted to a middle-grade talisman master. Doesn't this mean he could become a second-grade talisman master in the future? My husband has worked hard these days. The other wives and concubines nearby also heard this, and their beautiful eyes lit up with surprise and delight, as they looked admiringly at Lu Changsheng, their eyes filled with worship and love. Ever since Lu Changsheng became a talisman master, they, too, had learned something about the profession. They knew that each step forward was very difficult. Now that Lu Changsheng had advanced further, it meant that his status in the Lu family would also rise. And they, too, would bask in their husband's glory. Several children nearby, though not understanding the meaning, saw the expressions of their mothers and also joined in the clamor. Wow, Daddy is amazing. Daddy is so powerful. Lu Changsheng, witnessing this scene, couldn't help but smile on his face. It felt truly nice to be looked at with such admiration and love by his wives and children. It greatly satisfied his sense of male pride. That night. Afterward, Lu Changsheng held the women who were snuggling up next to him, tender and extraordinarily proactive tonight, and thought that he really needed to pay more attention to the aspect of the 100 refinements treasure body technique. The next morning, Lu Bo, as if worried that Lu Changsheng might forget or oversleep, came to call him. Lu Changsheng got up and, after a brief preparation, went with Lu Bo toward the Bamboo Heart Lodge. The Bamboo Heart Lodge was not far from the heart of Bamboo Lake, surrounded by green grass and blooming flowers, creating an exceptionally beautiful environment. Apart from the lively trading meet on the first day of the month, it was usually very quiet and peaceful. The second miss will arrive soon, just wait a moment. Actually, the second miss has quite a simple nature, just be gentle with her and go along with what she says, Lu Bo said earnestly to Lu Changsheng before leaving. He went outside to keep watch, to avoid anyone coming nearby and affecting the matchmaking meeting. After all, this matter was something that Lu Yuanding took very seriously and had entrusted to him. Lu Changsheng nodded at the words and sat down by the stone table in the courtyard, taking out a set of purple sand tea where to brew spiritual tea, calmly waiting. After about half an hour, Lu Changsheng heard a melodious and rhythmical tap-tap-tap sound. Looking towards the sound, he saw a tall and majestic figure, as proud and aloof as a peacock, gracefully walking toward him. It was his matchmaking partner for the day, Lu Miaohuan. Today, Lu Miaohuan had also clearly dolled herself up, her face showing a delicate makeup. Dressed in a form-fitting dark gown interwoven with deep blue, decorated with twinkling stars that seemed to flow, as though she was draped in the night sky decked with stars, she was stunningly glamorous. Compared to the black gown with golden embroidery he had seen on her last time, this dark blue starry gown was much more conservative, revealing only her elegant white swan neck and a hint of her clavicle and delicate shoulder. Yet the curvaceous figure outlined under the gown still led one's thoughts astray. Tap tap tap, Lu Miaohuan walked elegantly, her black silk-clad legs occasionally visible beneath the hem of her gown. Her skirt hem above her beautifully shod feet in sumptuous high heels matched her gown, shimmering like the starry nebula, with every step echoing a crisp tap, leaving traces of starlight in their wake. Lu Changsheng simply watched her approach, one graceful step at a time. Beauty, after all, should be appreciated. If he were to ignore her deliberate preparation, not to properly enjoy it, would it not be a disservice to her efforts? It must be said, when beauty reaches a certain level, it's all about the carriage and grace. The second miss before him, with her tall and graceful figure, her face stunning and noble, radiated an aura of aloofness and dignity from within, a commanding presence that involuntarily captivated onlookers, inducing feelings of unworthiness. Yet at the same time, that very aura could spark a strong desire to conquer. Lu Chongsheng pays his respects to Miss Miaohuan. Lu Chongsheng returned his gaze, stood up, and greeted Lu Miaohuan with a bow, radiating a refined and cultured demeanor. Despite the stunning allure of the lady before him, striking a chord with his aesthetics, Lu Chongsheng, after all, had weathered many storms and was greatly seasoned. He possessed the composure and mental spirit that came with his experience. Chapter 47, Matchmaking, Part 2:1 I've kept you waiting. Lu Miaohuan's icy demeanor softened a bit as she gave Lu Chongsheng a slight nod in greeting. Just now, as Lu Chongsheng had been watching her, she had also been sizing him up. Perhaps because of their meeting today, her mindset was different, and she found Lu Chongsheng more handsome than she remembered. His facial features, when looked at individually, were not particularly delicate, but together they gave off a just right, harmonious vibe that elevated his attractiveness. He was very easy on the eyes and quite comfortable to look at. Coupled with Lu Changsheng's gentle gaze and composed, unruffled demeanor, she felt as if she were basking in the warmth of spring. As someone captivated by appearances, Lu Miaohuan, who initially harbored some resistance to marrying Lu Chongsheng, now felt it wouldn't be unacceptable to marry him. Although Lu Changsheng's innate talents were lacking, with just a 9th-grade spiritual root, his exceptional talent in talisman making, and such handsome looks, he indeed possessed both talents and good looks. The only flaw, if one had to be mentioned, was he had too many wives and concubines. However, in that regard, Lu Miaohuan was quite confident in herself. Not just the confidence of her status and family background, but also in her own looks and charm. She clearly caught the way Lu Chongsheng looked at her just now, and she felt a bit proud inside. "I've just arrived myself," she said. Seeing that her attitude wasn't as bad as he had thought, Lu Chongsheng felt that the matchmaking could proceed. He picked up the teapot and took the initiative to pour Lu Miaohuan a cup of tea. "I didn't expect to meet Miss Miaohuan again in such a way. I apologize for my rudeness when we last met," Lu Chongsheng spoke, lifting his cup in a gesture similar to a toast. "I didn't expect you to remember that incident." Hearing Lu Chongsheng mention their last encounter, Lu Miaohuan's eyebrows lifted slightly. After all, her first meeting with Lu Chongsheng had not been very pleasant. It was mainly Lu Changsheng's behavior at the time, along with his reputation, that left her with a poor impression. "Of course, I remember. After witnessing Miss Miaohuan's extraordinary elegance, how could I forget? That matter has always lingered in my mind, and each time I think of it, I find my rudeness inexcusable. Now, nearly 2 years later, I finally get to meet Miss Miaohuan again and can express my apologies in person." Lu Chongsheng wore a sincere expression, but began to spout nonsense. After all, Lu Bo had said, "This second young miss may have a bit of a spoiled nature, but she is still rather innocent." Flattering words and playing along with her conversation should do the trick. If that's all it took, for the sake of having a child with a 6th-grade spiritual root, Lu Chongsheng was willing. "I have long since forgotten about that affair. I was in a bad mood at the time, so my tone was a bit harsh," she admitted. There's an old saying, "Don't slap a smiling face." Seeing Lu Changsheng's earnest expression, Lu Miaohuan felt somewhat embarrassed. She lightly lifted her skirt with graceful poise and sat down, delicately sipping from her cup of tea. With the conversation started, the two began to chat. During the conversation, Lu Chongsheng found Lu Miaohuan to have a much nicer personality than he had imagined. Her character couldn't be described as bad. She acted like a lady of the family, a little reserved, needing others to take the initiative. Then there was the fact that she didn't seem to like smiling that much. This gave the impression that she always had a touch of coldness on her face. In reality, she wasn't that aloof, not the keep-out kind. Outside the cottage, Lu Bo used his ability to eavesdrop on the conversation inside. The old man's face was creased with smiles like a blooming chrysanthemum. He thought to himself that it seemed Lu Changsheng was quite adept at taking multiple wives, not without merit. Then he stopped eavesdropping and patiently waited outside. In his view, since Lu Miaohuan was willing to continue talking to Lu Changsheng, the match was halfway to success. Inside the bamboo heart cottage, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaohuan sat opposite each other, enjoying tea and casual conversation. The secular world indeed has many fun and interesting things, but I must admit I'm not very knowledgeable about such matters. If Miss Miaohuan is interested, would be willing to accompany you to explore and see the sights, he offered. As for women, where in the mortal world could one encounter a celestial being like you? Surely Miss Miaohuan hasn't forgotten the first time I saw you, struck by your divinity to the point of losing my composure, he continued, heaping praise yet keeping his tone even and his eyes clear. In fact, much of the time, he didn't even let his gaze rest on Lu Miaohuan. Lu Changsheng did intend to marry Lu Miaohuan, to have her bear his children. But he wouldn't demean himself like a servile suitor, fawning over her. Moreover, he believed that for a woman like Lu Miaohuan, being too obsequious would only count against him. Thus, Lu Changsheng maintained a very composed demeanor. Over the past 4 years at the Lu family, Lu Changsheng felt that his greatest improvement had been in his state of mind, his emotional maturity. Beauty lies in the inevitable passing of time, the flowers of spring, the moons of autumn, the days of summer, the snows of winter. If you bloom, the gentle breeze comes naturally. If your heart is at peace, your smile will be serene. The Immortal Beauty Technique, second-rank talisman master skills, the 9 Netherhound, these things made Lu Changsheng feel like a blossoming flower. With the gentle wind passing by, naturally, bees and butterflies would come to dance around him. Moreover, winning a woman through begging, groveling, and self-degradation would require providing high emotional value later, spending much time and effort, and could upset the balance of his harem. He, Lu Changsheng, was destined not to spend most of his time and energy on any single woman. At that time, I was with my sister. You were astonished upon seeing me, but didn't you feel anything when you saw her? Lu Miaohuan's cool visage revealed a hint of joy as she crossed her legs in her high-heeled, black silk stockings, posing seductively as she asked Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng rose slightly from his seat and picked up the teapot to fill the cups with tea. At the same time, his gaze dropped to those crossed legs, as if signaling to Lu Miaohuan the reason why he was so captivated by her beauty. This action did not disgust Lu Miaohuan, on the contrary, it brought a secret delight to her heart. Ever since she was young, her elder sister, Lu Miaoga, had always outshone her, receiving most of the family elders' praises. Her daily attire was even subject to commentary. Now, the candid admiration in Lu Changsheng's eyes gave her a sense of validation. Miss Lu Miaoga, of course, is like a fairy from the heavens, truly stunning and peerless. Before this, I've had the fortune to see Miss Lu Miaoga 2 or 3 times but did not feel the same heart-racing emotion when I saw you, Miss Miaohuan. It reminded me of a line of poetry I'd heard before, when golden wind and jade do meet, they surpass countless others in the mundane world. Upon seeing Miss Miaohuan, I felt just that, even a mere glance felt like it surpassed countless other joys. As Lu Changsheng spoke, his eyes portrayed a sincere look at Lu Miaohuan. When golden wind and jade do meet, they surpass countless others in the mundane world. That's a beautiful verse, did you hear it in the secular world? Lu Miaohuan's beautiful eyes sparkled, a faint smile appeared on her cool face as if a lotus bloomed in seclusion. Does the second young miss actually like poetry? Lu Changsheng was a bit surprised. But then he recalled what Lu Bo had said, that the second young miss didn't take cultivation too seriously and now, being in her early 20s, it wasn't too far-fetched for her to enjoy such things. Yes, I heard it before in the secular world. The full poem goes, the skillful clouds play coy, the stars convey their grief. But I am not well-read and don't fully understand its meaning, I only found it apt and resonating with my mood at the time. There's a story behind this poem too. If Miss Miaohuan is interested, I could share it, said Lu Changsheng with a smile. Sure, Lu Miaohuan nodded, her delicate chin lightly perked. After more than 4 years, Lu Changsheng, a man from another world, found a use for the fragments of knowledge in his mind. And so they talked for more than an hour. During their conversation, Lu Miaohuan was very happy, her impression of Lu Changsheng greatly improved, and she was somewhat willing to marry Lu Changsheng. However, a woman's reserve and her pride made her purse her lips as she said, Lu Changsheng, I had a very enjoyable chat with you today. If you can agree to a few conditions of mine, I will consent to marry you. Miss Miaohuan, please speak, Lu Changsheng said with a nod and smile, his demeanor as gentle as jade. If I marry you, I must be the principal wife, and after you marry me, you cannot take any more wives or concubines. You cannot force me to have children, and there are more. Lu Miaohuan, suppressing her shy heart, laid out her conditions one by one with a cold, unflappable demeanor. GG. Upon hearing these conditions, Lu Changsheng internally cried GG in retreat. He immediately knew this matchmaking was doomed to fail. Actually, he thought Lu Miaohuan's conditions weren't too excessive. They were just the spiritual requirements of a young girl who yearned for love. She had barely mentioned material things. If Lu Changsheng were just an ordinary person, a normal cultivator, who wished for a serene life, then these conditions would not be troublesome. But with the blessings of many offspring system, Lu Changsheng was destined to be a man of great love and couldn't forsake a forest for a single great tree. Though he could agree now and deal with it later, Lu Changsheng didn't want to do that. He also disdained to deceive someone's feelings. Moreover, he was still in an inferior position within the Lu family, and agreeing now meant he had to follow through. Miss Miaohuan, I understand your intentions, Lu Changsheng said. However, I would need some time to consider your conditions before I can give you an answer. Lu Changsheng apologized with those words. You need to consider it? Lu Miaohuan was taken aback, finding it somewhat unbelievable. In the midst of their conversation, Lu Changsheng had shown signs that he liked her. Moreover, she thought that since she was willing to marry Lu Changsheng, he should have been ecstatic and overwhelmed with joy. But now, Lu Changsheng actually suggested that he needed to think about it. What did that mean? Was she being made to beg for a marriage that wouldn't happen? Her proud nature couldn't stand such humiliation. Suddenly, Lu Miaohuan's exquisite face turned icy cold, like a millennium-old glacier, as she swiftly stood up and walked out of the pavilion with a clip-clop of her heels. Lu Changsheng watched Lu Miaohuan's retreating elegant figure and shook his head slightly. Such beauty was beyond his reach for the time being. Second young miss, what's wrong? Lu Bo, who was waiting outside the pavilion, saw Lu Miaohuan emerge with a frosty face and quickly walk away, puzzled. Weren't they just having a pleasant talk? He hurried after her. Chapter 48, Lu Miaoyun. _1 Lu Bo, the family head is willing to marry the second young miss to me, and I am truly overwhelmed and delighted. I am also very fond of the second young miss, but she and I are not suitable for each other, Lu Changsheng said with a bitter smile as he faced Lu Bo, who had come with the air of demanding an explanation. Not only do I have so many wives and children, but when I first sought cultivation, I also vowed to marry 100 women and have several hundred children in my lifetime, and what the second young miss desires is a person who is wholly devoted to her, but this is something I cannot and will not be able to achieve. Therefore, while the second young miss and I might be fated to meet, we are not destined to share our lives. Even if we truly became husband and wife, these issues could potentially become seeds of discord. If there are conflicts, then I would have let down the family head's trust and nurturing. I would be too ashamed to face the family head, Lu Changsheng said with a face full of sincere earnestness. Lu Bo's wrinkled face twitched slightly upon hearing Lu Changsheng's words. The declaration of marrying 100 wives and fathering several hundred children was indeed too much for him to bear. He felt like asking, "Are you a breeding pig?" But considering that in a little over 4 years, Lu Changsheng already had 12 women and had never stopped having children, he did seem to have some intention of striving toward that goal. Ah! Lu Bo sighed deeply. He never expected that, in this arranged meeting, though Lu Miaohuan agreed, Lu Changsheng on the other hand did not, feeling it was not suitable. However, as poorly considered as Lu Changsheng's reasons might be, they were understandable and made some sense. While Lu Changsheng's talent in talisman making was exceptional, it was still just latent potential and had not all been turned into strength. If the two truly married, Lu Miaohuan would technically be gaining the upper hand. Given Lu Miaohuan's personality, between the two of them, it would certainly be Lu Changsheng making more concessions for Lu Miaohuan. It would still be fine if Lu Changsheng were willing to make those concessions, but if the situation turned out as Lu Changsheng described, and the two eventually entered into marital discord, what should the Lu family do then? Favor Lu Miaohuan? Naturally, that would not do. With Lu Changsheng's exceptional natural talent in talisman making, if he could take his talents one step further, turning his potential into strength, his position in the Lu family would soon be comparable to that of a guest elder. To take such a course of action would clearly cause resentment in Lu Changsheng, like driving him away from the family. The Lu family's strategy of marrying a direct female member to Lu Changsheng was to firmly bind him to the Lu family. If things played out this way, it would be a case of being too clever by half, and the result would be the opposite of what was intended. But if they favored Lu Changsheng, that would put the patriarch of the Lu family, Lu Yuanding, in a difficult position. Thus, if Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaohuan did marry and conflict arose, the Lu family would indeed be in a difficult position on both sides. Alright, I understand what you mean, and I will relay it to the family head as is. Lu Bo gave Lu Changsheng a pat on the shoulder, not saying much else. After all, this kind of matter required the willing consent of both parties, and they couldn't force Lu Changsheng into anything. Honestly speaking, the Lu family would even tend to lean more towards Lu Changsheng's side. Thank you, Lu Bo, Lu Changsheng said, wearing an expression of guilty apology. He had originally planned to use this occasion to bring up the matter of Li Feiyu's children to Lu Yuanding, see if he could request Lu Yuanding to reduce or at least lessen the number of Li Feiyu's 50 children. But now, after this development, he felt a bit embarrassed to bring it up and decided to set the matter aside, to look for another opportunity in the future. He said he wants to marry 100 wives? Have several hundred children? Lu Yuanding was at a loss for words upon hearing Lu Bo's account, unsure of what to say for a moment. Was this man trying to walk through what took 100 years for a family to accomplish in just a few decades? It seemed Lu Changsheng had truly given up on cultivation and only wanted to have children. But considering Lu Changsheng's 9th grade spiritual root, he could somewhat understand. Yes, family head, though it sounds like a joke, I feel that Lu Changsheng is quite serious about it, and it doesn't seem like he is using it as an excuse to avoid marrying the second young miss, Lu Bo said with a bitter smile. Lu Yuanding nodded upon hearing this, then sighed deeply. I guess I did not consider this matter thoroughly enough. No matter whether Lu Changsheng's words were an excuse or the truth, he harbored no blame toward him. As the head of a family, he still possessed the capacity to be tolerant of others. For the sake of the family's interests, he couldn't possibly blame Lu Changsheng. Besides, when it came to this marriage, he had always been thinking about his daughter Lu Miaohuan. He felt that Lu Changsheng was an excellent match for his daughter. He had never considered Lu Changsheng's wishes and thoughts. There was also a subconscious arrogance in his heart. He thought that if he gave his daughter to Lu Changsheng would be too grateful to refuse. But now that he thought about it, what Lu Changsheng said made sense. Putting aside the matter of Lu Changsheng wanting to have hundreds of children, their personalities also indeed did not match well. What if they had conflicts in the future? He was confident that he could control Lu Changsheng now, but what about later? Even if he was the patriarch of the Lu family, he couldn't pressure someone with power forever. The other family elders wouldn't agree either. Moreover, what Lu Changsheng said was also considering the Lu family's perspective. It showed that he had a certain sense of belonging to the Lu family. It was well-intentioned. Sigh. Lu Yuanding let out another sigh. He was now just a father worried sick over his daughter. Thinking of how his daughter's anger had subsided and she was willing to wait for Lu Changsheng's response showed that his daughter truly had a good impression of Lu Changsheng. But now that Lu Changsheng disagreed, he was somewhat unsure how to face his daughter, or what to say about this matter. Headache. 2 days later, Lu Changsheng received another matchmaking invitation. He understood now that the Lu family's upper echelons were determined to marry him to a woman of significance within the family. Only then would he truly be considered one of their own, a Lu family son-in-law. Even though he had previously married and taken 9 worldly women from the Lu family as wives and concubines, in the eyes of the family's higher-ups, this did not count as him truly being a Lu family son-in-law. The girl from this matchmaking session was named Lu Miaoyun, the granddaughter of the Lu family's 4th elder. 18 this year, with a 7th grade spiritual root, she was delicate and lovely, with a docile and sensible personality. Perhaps because of what happened with Lu Miaohuan, the Lu family had specifically chosen a docile and sensible girl. The matchmaking session went very smoothly. After the two met, both sides nodded in agreement, and the next day the Lu family arranged their wedding. The wedding day was set for 18 days later, coinciding with an auspicious day on the lunar calendar. Meanwhile, within an ancient and exquisitely elegant small building, smash! An ornately patterned vase was hurled to the ground, shattering into countless pieces. The fragments on the ground reflected a beautiful face filled with coldness. In the room, Lu Miaohuan smashed one vase after another to vent her anger until she finally calmed down. You tell me, is Lu Changsheng purposely humiliating me because of what happened back then? Lu Miaohuan suddenly looked up, her eyes slightly red as she turned to her personal maid Kuei Si. After leaving the bamboo heart pavilion, her anger had slightly cooled, and she was still considering giving Lu Changsheng another chance. As long as Lu Changsheng was willing to come and apologize, she was still willing to marry him. But to her surprise, Lu Changsheng flat out refused her. And just 2 days later, he was betrothed to her cousin, the granddaughter of the 4th elder, Lu Miaoyun. For her, a woman of high pride, it felt like humiliation. Miss, how could that be? The maid Kuei Si cautiously said, Lu Changsheng would be too eager to please you. I heard that the reason Lu Changsheng didn't agree is that he felt unworthy of you, Mississippi. He still wants to take wives and concubines to have a bunch of children, that's why he chose Miss Miaoyun. Lu Miaohuan surely knew that Lu Changsheng wasn't purposely humiliating her. Her father Lu Yuanding had also come to soothe and comfort her. But she just couldn't swallow this insult. Lu Miaohuan's beautiful eyes narrowed, her chest rose and fell with indignation, and then she said through clenched teeth, Lu Changsheng, I will find a man 10 times, 100 times stronger than you, to make you regret this. Chapter 49, Wedding. _1 After Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaohuan's marriage was settled, the numerous wives and concubines in his backyard naturally came to know of it. Even if there was harmony in the backyard and all the women were virtuous and gentle, upon hearing such news, some felt a touch of gloom and loss. Not only was Lu Changsheng going to take another wife. There were also reasons pertaining to the Lu family. After all, among these women, except for Chu Zhenjin, the rest were daughters of the Lu family. Now that Lu Changsheng's status in the Lu family had risen, the family was marrying off a granddaughter of an elder with a spiritual root to Lu Changsheng. And it was with all formalities, the giving of betrothal gifts and a grand wedding. This naturally made them feel somewhat uncomfortable. On a regular basis, although they had distinctions as wives and concubines, they were not separated into different levels, all depending on Lu Changsheng's affection. Once this granddaughter of the elder became his wife, it need not be said that she would be the principal wife. Ladies, do not worry, towards you all, I have always been fair, and in the future, I will make up for it by arranging a grand wedding for each of you. Lu Changsheng also noticed that his wives and concubines were somewhat unhappy and spoke up to comfort them. This group of wives and concubines had been with him for many years, all had borne him children twice, and were currently expecting the third, so naturally, there were strong emotions. "Thank you, my lord. My lord, we are fine." The clan's willingness to marry Miss Miaoyun to my lord also shows the high regard they have for you. Although the women felt gloomy inside, with a sense of regret that they had helped their husband rise to nobility, they soon adjusted, knowing this was the reality. With Lu Changsheng's current identity and status, they, as secular women without spiritual roots, also felt somewhat unworthy of him. Being able to become Lu Changsheng's wives and concubines was already a fortunate thing. It was incomparably better than many other sisters, best friends, and acquaintances. Moreover, after so many years of living together, they had come to understand Lu Changsheng's character. They knew that their husband was not heartless, one who would forget old love upon finding new. That night, Lu Changsheng came to comfort his wives and concubines. And perhaps stimulated by the day's events, each concubine exerted extra effort, all joining together and using a myriad of techniques. Afterwards, Lu Changsheng lay on the bed with the women in his arms and couldn't help but think to himself. Indeed, one is influenced by one's surroundings. His wives and concubines never had so many tricks up their sleeves before. Through the recent contact with Jiao'er and Shu'er, who were sent by Hong Yi, they had learned so many new tricks. If this continued daily, how could one withstand it? In the blink of an eye, 18 days had passed. The wedding of Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoyun began. Unlike the simple ceremonies of Lu Changsheng's previous two weddings, this wedding was very formal and lively. All of Jianghu mountain was festive, decked out in lights and decorations, hung with large red lanterns. That day, Lu Changsheng also woke up early. He was dressed by two women, combed his hair, wore a golden crown, and changed into a red brocade groom's outfit. Then, with a big red flower on his chest, he mounted a spiritual steed, led the wedding procession, and came to the fourth elder's residence with much fanfare to receive the bridal palanquin. Since both families lived in Jianghu Valley of the Lu family and were not far apart, after Lu Changsheng placed Lu Miaoyun, dressed in fiery red bridal attire and in her phoenix crown and rosy clouds robe, into the bridal palanquin, he led the procession around the entirety of Jianghu mountain. Along the way, many of the Lu family disciples came to watch the wedding. I still remember standing here 4 years ago, witnessing Lu Changsheng entering our Lu family as a live-in son-in-law. Who could have thought that after just over 4 years, he would be marrying our Miaoyun? There's no helping it, who can blame someone for having such a good talent for talisman making? Indeed, who would have thought that a son-in-law brought in for breeding purposes would possess such talisman-making talent? A middle-grade talisman master, no less, who became one in just over 3 years, even surpassing Sister Maiage's talent in talisman making. The fourth elder might be looking to have him succeed him by marrying off a member of the Miaoyun clan to Lu Changsheng. Having married a sister from the Miaoyun clan, with the care of the fourth elder, Lu Changsheng has really soared high. Lu Changsheng only has a 9th grade spiritual root. No matter what, he has no hope of achieving foundation establishment in this life. Foundation establishment? I have a 6th grade spiritual root and even I dare not dream of achieving foundation establishment without some fortuitous opportunity. But this Lu Changsheng really has changed a lot. I remember when he first arrived he seemed so ordinary, but now he is quite handsome. He's always engrossed with women. He must have practiced some sort of cultivation technique for preserving youth and beauty. If only I had married Lu Changsheng earlier. Many disciples from the Lu family, seeing the handsome and tall Lu Changsheng riding a spiritual horse to marry Lu Miaoyun, expressed their feelings of admiration and envy. In just 4.5 short years, many of them witnessed Lu Changsheng's entry into the Lu family as a breeding son-in-law. Then he became a talisman-making apprentice, a talisman master, moved to Jianghu Valley, and now he's marrying the granddaughter of the fourth elder. The immortal seedlings who came to the Lu family as sons-in-law with Lu Changsheng saw him on the spiritual horse and felt an incomparable envy, as if it were something out of a dream. Back then, they were all eliminated by Qing Yun's sect and came to the Lu family as sons-in-law. Now, 4.5 years have passed, and they are still breeding for the Lu family, working to complete the task of producing 50 descendants over 20 years. Meanwhile, Lu Chongsheng has already married the direct granddaughter of the fourth elder of the Lu family, a female cultivator with a spiritual root. To know, this fourth elder is a first-grade top-level talisman master. With an extraordinary status in the Lu family, Lu Chengsheng's marriage to his granddaughter made everyone envious. In the crowd, Li Feiyu watched this scene, reflecting on their shared past coming to the Lu family, also filled with mixed emotions. But still, he felt happy for Lu Chongsheng. Lu Chongsheng rode the spiritual horse, aware of the various gazes on himself, and couldn't help feeling a bit of the pride of riding on the spring breeze. He felt that after enduring so long in the Lu family, he had finally made something of himself. However, he was very clear in his heart, in this world where the strong prey upon the weak and power is respected. Cultivation and strength are the true paths to supremacy. His current status and position were all owing to his talisman-making skill. It was a shortcut, like a rootless weed or a pavilion in the sky. He must not get carried away. After making a circuit around the entire Jianghu mountain, Lu Chongsheng brought the bride back to his mansion. With many senior members of the Lu family as witnesses, the wedding began. Pay respects to heaven and earth. Pay respects to the high hall. The couple bows to each other. Escort to the bridal chamber. After the wedding was completed, Lu Miaoyun was finally ranked as Lu Chengsheng's main wife. Lu Chongsheng had known about this well in advance. He did not contend for these titles or status with the Lu family, so as not to displease the fourth elder. His other wives and concubines were also prepared from the beginning and understood the situation. After sending the bride to the bridal chamber, Lu Chongsheng untied the large red flower and went out to receive the guests. On this day, he got to know the higher echelons, clan elders, and guest elders of the Lu family. He was officially inducted into the inner circle of the Lu family and became one of their own. During this process, he saw the fifth elder of the Lu family, who proposed the idea of buying barrel bamboo wine during the toasting. Hearing this, the fifth elder readily agreed. He also mentioned that his family had many other kinds of spiritual wine, and Lu Chongsheng could come to taste and purchase them later. Chapter 50, Buy One Get One Free. One night had fallen. The guests, full from the feast and merry with wine, gradually dispersed, and Lu Chongsheng headed to the bridal chamber to consummate the marriage. Young master. Standing outside the bridal room was a young girl dressed in a green luo skirt with 2 buns atop her head, her features delicate and pretty, her eyes large and clear. This was Lu Miaoyun's personal maid, named Xiaoqing. She too possessed a spiritual root, a cultivator. For a cultivation family like the Lu family, in order to ensure a constant supply of fresh blood, they would also search for children with spiritual roots in the secular world. Once found, these children would be sent to Jianghu mountain for nurturing. However, unless a child was particularly talented, most were taught the skills of spirit plant cultivation, spirit slaughter, culinary arts, wine brewing, mining, and so on. Compared to formations, elixir medicines, artifact refining, and talismans, these skills did not have a high threshold, were fairly easy to learn, but were rather arduous. The Lu family's spirit fields, Jianghu forests, and spirit mines, all work that required cultivators, were basically managed by these adopted disciples. When these individuals reached a certain age, the men would marry secular women from the Lu family, and the women would become concubines to the young masters of the Lu family, kept within the family's own circles. Xiaoqing belonged to the children raised by the Lu family from a young age, serving as Lu Miaoyun's maid. Unless something unforeseen occurred, she was expected to become the concubine of a Lu family disciple in the future. But at this moment, since Lu Miaoyun was marrying Lu Chongsheng, Xiaoqing also accompanied the bride as a chambermaid. For Lu Chongsheng, marrying Lu Miaoyun and gaining a maid with a spiritual root as part of her dowry was indeed a pleasant surprise. "Shao Qing, you've worked hard," Lu Chongsheng said with a smile to the charming maid standing before him, nodded his head, then pushed open the door and entered. Red lamps burned brightly in the room, embellished with festivity, set up in splendid brilliance. Lu Miaoyun was draped in a fiery red phoenix-embroidered bridal dress, wearing a phoenix crown and rosy clouds robe, her head covered with a red veil, demurely sitting atop the bridal bed. "Miaoyun." Lu Chongsheng approached the bed and called out to the beauty before him. Lu Miaoyun did not respond, but even her seated posture betrayed a slight nervousness. "Young master." At that moment, the maid Shao Qing approached with a tray that held a jade balance beam and a set of wine utensils. While the Lu family was a cultivation family, they were not completely detached from some of the secular customs and practices. Lu Chongsheng knew the rituals, took the jade balance beam, and gently lifted the red veil obscuring Lu Miaoyun's face. A visage of gentle and soft beauty, dazzlingly lovely, was unveiled. Her arched brows framed her clear eyes, her nose was delicate and pretty, and her small mouth was luscious red. She might not be as exquisitely stunning as Lu Miaohuan, but she was quite attractive. She possessed the kind of sweet, enduring beauty that gave the impression of a pure girl next door. "My husband," as the veil lifted, Lu Miaoyun's long lashes trembled slightly, her pretty face blushed with shyness, and she called out in a voice that was soft, sweet, and slightly naive. Her personality wasn't as timid or delicate as Chu Zenshin's, nor was she the type to be calm and composed. Furthermore, as a woman who had only met Lu Chongsheng once before their marriage was arranged, how could she be completely at ease on their wedding night? Lu Chongsheng chuckled, took a wine jug from the tray, poured Lu Miaoyun a cup of spiritual wine, and then poured one for himself. He then said, "Miaoyun, today we become husband and wife, and from this day forward, we shall journey through life together. Come, let's finish this drink. I will follow my husband's guidance for the rest of my life." A blush showed on Lu Miaoyun's face as she looked at the handsome young man before her, and then they exchanged cups of wine. "Wishing the young master and young mistress 100 years of harmony, and may you have an early heir," said the maid Shao Qing as she collected the cups, her voice clear and crisp. Then, with a curtsy, she left the room, closed the door behind her, and left the newlyweds alone. After drinking the wedding cup, Lu Chongsheng immediately felt a bit of heat in his lower abdomen and realized there was something off about the drink. Lu Miaoyun's complexion was also flushed and rosy, like blooming peach blossoms. In the room, the sound of their breathing at this moment seemed exceptionally clear. Lu Chongsheng didn't need to think to know that the just-consumed wedding cup must have been specially prepared by the Lu family, intended to enhance the mood of the wedding night. He directly embraced his delicate wife in his arms and said, "Yuner, it's time to rest." My lord, the light is still on," Lu Miaoyun murmured softly. "It's fine, this way I can see clearly." That year, Lu Chongsheng was 22 years old. He had 5 wives, 6 concubines, 2 favored beauties, and a maid. The next day, dawn broke brightly. The gentle sunlight filtered through the lattice window, casting its light onto the messy, bright red wedding garments and fiery bridal dress on the floor. After waking up, Lu Chongsheng looked at the disheveled beauty in his arms, with tear stains still visible at the corner of her eyes, and felt completely relaxed and spirited, without a hint of lethargy. Seeing Lu Miaoyun's pitiful state, remembering what happened the night before, he thought to himself that this little wife was indeed obedient and well-behaved, without the slightest bit of young mistress temperament. He couldn't help but kiss her pretty and fair cheek. This little action immediately woke up the sleeping Lu Miaoyun. She opened her eyes and softly called out to Lu Chongsheng. "My lord," the voice was tender and silly, stirring a few threads of affection in Lu Chongsheng's heart. He gently pinched her fair, blushing cheek and said softly, "It's still early, you rest well. We have to go see grandma later." Lu Miaoyun rubbed her eyes, not going back to sleep, indicating she wanted to get up. Seeing this, Lu Chongsheng immediately supported the beauty. However, after all, Lu Miaoyun possessed the 4th level energy refinement cultivation. Her body was stronger than that of ordinary people. Even though Lu Chongsheng was somewhat rational yesterday, he had not made their first time such that she couldn't get up and move. Moreover, the spiritual wine was somewhat beneficial for her. Soon the two got out of bed and started dressing. Lu Miaoyun quickly gathered up the handkerchief and placed it in the mandarin duck brocade box nearby. This caused Lu Chongsheng to smile. Afterwards, the two of them tidied up their clothes and pushed open the room door, ready to go pay respects to the 4th elder. Young master, miss, the maid Xiaoqing was standing outside the door, clearly not having slept all night. Xiaoqing, didn't I tell you? You didn't have to stay up, you should go rest now, Lu Miaoyun told her. A maid like Xiaoqing, who possessed a spiritual root, wasn't entirely there to serve when following the young masters and mistresses. She was more for miscellaneous tasks while also learning a few things. To use her solely for serving would be too wasteful. Miss, I'm not tired, Xiaoqing said with a gentle smile, her voice crisp and melodious like an oriole. She had a 9th grade spiritual root and already reached the 2nd level in qi refinement, much more energetic than ordinary people. Lu Miaoyun didn't say much more and, hand in hand with Lu Chongsheng, left the estate to head toward the residence of the 4th elder. Chapter 51, Lu Family's 4th Elder. _1 Yuner, you must live a good life with Chongsheng from now on, and listen to your husband more, understand? Chongsheng, Yuner is my granddaughter. Now that I've entrusted her to you, don't let me down. The 4th elder looked at Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun and spoke out. Although this 4th elder was in her 70s or 80s and old enough to be a grandmother, she did not look her age at all. She wore a deep cyan, elegantly simple dress, with black hair meticulously coiled up, secured by a slanting jade hairpin. Her complexion was rosy and healthy, making her look like a noblewoman in her 30s or 40s. However, upon closer inspection, one could see strands of white in her temples and a few crow's feet around her almond-shaped eyes. But these white hairs and wrinkles did not make the woman appear much older, on the contrary, they added a strong sense of maturity to her overall bearing. Grandmother, please rest assured that Chongsheng will certainly take good care of Yuner and won't let her suffer the slightest grievance, Lu Chongsheng replied respectfully. Even though it was a marriage of convenience, now that they were married and had shared the bridal chamber, he naturally intended to take it seriously and assume his duties and responsibilities. Lu Miaoyun also softly acknowledged. Good, good, good. Grandmother believes in you. Work hard together so I can hold great-grandchildren soon, the 4th elder said, joining their hands together and smiling. Her demeanor was gentle and kind, her tone warm, but because she had held a high position for a long time, her words carried a faint authority. Upon hearing these words, Lu Miaoyun's cheeks immediately turned a shade of red, and she lowered her head shyly. Lu Chongsheng responded with a frank expression, yes, Chongsheng will certainly strive hard. He, too, hoped that Lu Miaoyun would conceive soon. Chongsheng, I've heard from Miaoga that you've never been formally taught in talisman making and have relied solely on your own exploration. Grandmother teaches a class on talisman making at the end of each month. You should come as well. If you have any problems, or issues with your cultivation, feel free to come directly to grandmother, continued the 4th elder, speaking gently as if she were a kind and loving elder. As a person responsible for the Lu family's talisman making, she not only made talismans herself but also taught other Lu family disciples in the art, in the hopes of cultivating new talisman masters. After all, types of talents such as array masters, alchemists, artifact refiners, and talisman masters were never too numerous for any family, which always hoped for more. However, these skills were highly dependent on innate talent and had a very high threshold. Among the Lu family, she had only managed to teach Lu Miaoga. Like Lu Miaoyun, her granddaughter had also learned talisman making, but with no real talent for it, otherwise, she would have been cultivated as well. It was her efforts that allowed Lu Miaoyun to have a second arranged meeting with Lu Changsheng. As long as Lu Changsheng married Lu Miaoyun, the fourth elder was willing to instruct and train him carefully, adding a second-grade talisman master to the Lu family. Changsheng thanks grandmother deeply, Lu Changsheng immediately said with a bow, his voice betraying excitement. He was aware that the fourth elder before him was a top-level first-grade talisman master, and also possessed the 9th-level energy refinement cultivation. There was naturally no issue with her guiding his cultivation. As for talisman making, although he had no need for guidance, having the fourth elder's instruction as a cover would allow him to reveal his talents in talisman making even faster in the future. Otherwise, having just become a middle-grade talisman master, revealing the abilities of a top-grade master would take at least 3 to 5 years. That was an excruciating amount of time. With the fourth elder's endorsement, he might be able to accelerate that timeline according to the situation. We are one family, there's no need for such formality. I am Yunar's grandmother, and from now on, it'll be yours too. If you encounter any difficulties or have any issues, feel free to reach out to grandmother. I still carry a fair bit of weight in my words here at the Lu family, the fourth elder said with a gentle and benevolent smile. Yes, grandmother, Lu Changsheng responded, also revealing a sincere smile. Even though he was aware of the underlying motives in her caring and affectionate words, they truly warmed his heart and made him feel a sense of closeness. Immediately, Lu Changsheng addressed the fourth elder, Grandma, Changsheng indeed has a matter for which he would like to trouble you. What matter? The fourth elder's expression was gentle. Changsheng has a good friend by the name of Li Feiyu, who came with Changsheng to the Lu family to become a son-in-law. This friend of mine is different from me, he is wholeheartedly devoted to cultivation. Now he is hindered by the obligation of fathering children, so I would like to trouble Grandma, to see if it's possible to exempt him from the requirement of having 50 children, or at least reduce this number, Lu Changsheng said. He certainly had not forgotten about his good brother Li Feiyu's situation. He had intended to discuss this matter with the family head Lu Yuanding before. But because of Lu Miaohuan's situation, he felt somewhat embarrassed to bring it up to Lu Yuanding. Since he now had the opportunity, he naturally took the chance to mention it. Such matters are not really for Grandma to interfere in. However, since you, Changsheng, have brought it up, Grandma will naturally help you with this, the fourth elder said after a slight pause. For her, as the Lu family's fourth elder, such a matter was not difficult at all. It would only take a single word if she were willing. Moreover, the request came from Lu Changsheng. By now, Lu Changsheng held some weight in the hearts of the Lu family's higher-ups. For such a minor issue, they were willing to do him a favor and have Lu Changsheng feel a bit more gratitude towards the Lu family. After all, Lu Changsheng's request wasn't over the top. In fact, this request raised her opinion and estimation of Lu Changsheng by several notches. A man of integrity and loyalty. In the cultivation world, being a person of integrity and valuing relationships is not considered much of an advantage. But from the perspective of the Lu family, she naturally hoped that Lu Changsheng was a person of integrity who valued relationships. For your sake, Changsheng, Grandma has the authority to annul your friendly Feiyu's original contract altogether, exempting him from the requirement to have children, but there are rules that make a family. The Lu family also has its rules and does not support idlers. After exempting him from the requirement to have children, he will no longer enjoy any of the Lu family's benefits and entitlements. He may continue to reside in the Lu family, but he must perform certain services for the family. If he cannot accept this, then he must leave the Lu family, the fourth elder explained. At that moment, her gentle and kind tone carried an undertone of unspoken authority. Thank you, Grandma. I will discuss these matters with him later and will give you a response afterward. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng stood up and bowed his hands in salute, feeling that this arrangement was already generous enough. Having been in the Lu family for a while, he was aware of some of the Lu family's circumstances. Although they had their own spiritual vein-blessed land and assets, they could not be considered overly abundant. Some of the peripheral disciples of the Lu family in Jianghu Villa had to refine materials, guard bamboo groves, and cut down Qingling bamboo to earn spirit stones, among other tasks. In such circumstances, how could they afford to provide for idlers? To annul the past contract without any cost, and to offer the choice of either staying with the Lu family to work or leaving, was already quite acceptable. Otherwise, according to the original contract conditions, if one did not have 50 children within 20 years, not only would one have to compensate with 3 times the resources, but also serve the Lu family for 10 years. Fine, once you have a result, just let Grandma know, and at that time Grandma will speak to the family head about this matter, the fourth elder said with a smile on her face. Afterwards, Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun chatted for a while with the fourth elder before excusing themselves and departing. As they were leaving, the fourth elder even stuffed several boxes of pastries and spirit fruits into Lu Changsheng's hands, giving him the feeling of visiting relatives during the new year. Chapter 52, Li Feiyu's Choice _1 After leaving the fourth elder's residence, Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun visited the fifth elder's residence on their way. They also came to purchase spiritual wine and to inquire whether the wedding wine they drank last night was also brewed by this fifth elder. He felt the spiritual wine last night was quite good. Chongsheng, this is the green jade bamboo wine you requested, brewed from our Lu family's green jade spiritual bamboo, which nourishes the flesh and relieves fatigue. This is the green pear wine, brewed from green pears, with effects similar to the green jade bamboo wine, though the taste is relatively tart. You can try it. This is the white jade 100 flowers wine, brewed from white jade spiritual rice and dozens of flowers and fruits, with effects that nourish the flesh and calm the mind. The flavor is rich, sweet, and lingers long. This is the millet ancient wine, brewed from millet spiritual rice. The fifth elder, seeing Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun come to buy spiritual wine, was also very enthusiastic, presenting a variety of spiritual wines for Lu Chongsheng to taste. All these spiritual wines were first grade, with their quality, lower, middle, or upper grade, determined by the age of the raw materials and the fermentation time. Brewing wine and alchemy are different. Apart from the raw materials, there is also a significant cost of time. Even if the raw materials for spiritual wine are average, by storing it in a place rich in spiritual energy to continuously absorb energy and ferment gently, the spiritual energy within the wine becomes more mellow and concentrated, thus improving the quality. Lu Chongsheng briefly tasted a few types of spiritual wine and found that the green jade bamboo wine and the white jade 100 flowers wine suited his taste more. He then asked Lu Miaoyun which flavor of spiritual wine she preferred. Her tastes were similar to his, favoring the white jade 100 flowers wine. Without delay, Lu Chongsheng told the fifth elder that he wished to purchase 10 bottles of green jade bamboo wine and 10 jars of white jade 100 flowers wine. He also asked the fifth elder if the wedding wine he drank the previous night was one of the fifth elder's brews. The fifth elder chuckled and told Lu Chongsheng that the wedding wine was called Tiger Wolf Tonic Wine. Drinking it occasionally was good for the body and cultivation, but too much could actually harm the body. Drinking a cup once every 10 days or half a month would suffice. Immediately, Lu Chongsheng requested a bottle of the Tiger Wolf Tonic Wine. He planned to take it back and use it to rejuvenate his wives and concubines. The green jade bamboo wine and white jade 100 flowers wine were the lower grade of the younger years, costing 2 spirit stones per bottle and 3 spirit stones per jar, respectively. The Tiger Wolf Tonic Wine, however, cost 5 spirit stones per bottle. Altogether, it came to 55 spirit stones, and the fifth elder generously gave Lu Chongsheng a discount of 5 spirit stones. After purchasing the spiritual wine, Lu Chongsheng didn't stay long and bid farewell to the fifth elder with Lu Miaoyun. However, Lu Chongsheng had Lu Miaoyun go back first as he made his way to Jianghu Villa. He planned to discuss the recent events with Li Feiyu. Brother Chongsheng. Good to see you, brother-in-law. Chongsheng brother-in-law. Brother Chongsheng, do you need anything over here? As Lu Chongsheng arrived at Jianghu Villa, many Lu family disciples actively greeted him along the way. Now that Lu Chongsheng had become a middle-grade talisman master and married Lu Miaoyun, there was no unpleasantness among the Lu family disciples towards him. Feeling that even a mere son-in-law deserved no less. Under the Lu family's education that prioritizes family above all else, Lu Chongsheng was now seen as one of their own in their eyes. Even if some were displeased, they wouldn't be foolish enough to show it. Moreover, Lu Changsheng's personality was very amicable and he was easy to talk to, never offending anyone. Everyone was willing to be on good terms with this talisman master. Lu Chongsheng didn't know many of these people very well. But faced with their greetings, he always nodded and smiled in response, exchanging a few words. Sometime later, Lu Chongsheng arrived at Li Feiyu's residence and rang the doorbell. The door was opened by one of Li Feiyu's wives. "Please wait a moment, brother-in-law Chongsheng. I'll go inform my husband." After seeing that it was Lu Chongsheng, knowing he was there to see Li Feiyu, she politely invited him into the living room to wait, served him tea, and then went to notify Li Feiyu. "Chongsheng, what brings you here?" Soon after, Li Feiyu arrived in the hall. "What, can't I come for a visit without any particular reason?" Lu Chongsheng said with a smile. "Didn't you just get married? Aren't you busy with something?" Li Feiyu smiled and said. "What could I possibly be busy with? I've come because there's something I need to tell you." Lu Chongsheng said. What thing?" Li Feiyu asked. "About the matter of you having 50 children in 20 years. Lu Chongsheng picked up his teacup, took a light sip, and said. "Did you bring this up with the family head? What did the family head say?" Upon hearing this, Li Feiyu's entire body shook, a look of surprise appeared on his face, and he eagerly looked at Lu Chongsheng. Although he had previously said he didn't want to trouble Lu Chongsheng, over the years, the Lu family had also started to put pressure on them, the immortal seedlings, to have children. Because of his relationship with Lu Chongsheng, Uncle Fu had also been relatively lenient towards him. But he had mentioned it a few times, so under pressure, he had also had 5 children, with 2 more on the way. Gulp, Lu Chongsheng didn't speak. Under Li Feiyu's eager gaze, he slowly took a sip of tea, comfortably sighed, and then said, "I didn't mention it to the family head." Li Feiyu was stunned. Seeing Li Feiyu's reaction, Lu Chongsheng then smiled and said, "I talked to the 4th elder about your situation, and the 4th elder has agreed. He agreed to waive the matter of having 50 children and has given you 2 choices, one is." Lu Chongsheng did not leave him in suspense and relayed the 4th elder's words. Great, that's great." Li Feiyu's face showed excitement and elation. Being able to resolve the contract without any cost and not having to have 50 children made him very satisfied. He took a deep breath and with a serious expression thanked Lu Chongsheng. "Chongsheng, thank you so much for this matter. We don't need to be so polite between us. Feiyu, are you planning to continue staying with the Lu family or to leave?" Lu Chongsheng waved his hand and asked aloud. He truly regarded Li Feiyu as a brother and would naturally help with something within his ability. Ever since he became a first-grade middle-stage talisman master, he had wanted to discuss this matter with Lu Yuanding. But because of Lu Miaohuan's situation, he felt a little embarrassed to bring it up with Lu Yuanding, so he waited until now. "Although the children belong to the Lu family, they are still young, and I just can't bring myself to walk away and leave them behind. I choose to continue working with the Lu family until the children are a bit older and have reached the middle stage of qi refinement," said Li Feiyu after a moment of contemplation. His unwillingness to have 50 children wasn't just because it interfered with his cultivation. It was also because he had attachments and couldn't bear to ignore them and walk away without a care. "I also think it's better to stay with the Lu family for now." Lu Chongsheng nodded in agreement, sharing the same opinion. Li Feiyu was only at the 3rd level of qi refinement, going out as a loose cultivator would be very difficult, so it was better to stay with the Lu family for now. At least in the Lu family, if possible, he could still look out for him. Then, he teased, now that you have 7 children, it's possible that one might have the spiritual root and end up teaching you a thing or two. I don't harbor such extravagant hopes. Everyone says how wonderful cultivation is, but once you step onto the path of immortality, you realize it's not as beautiful as you imagine. If possible, I actually hope none of them have the spiritual root so they can live quietly and carefree in the mortal world for the rest of their lives, Li Feiyu said with a smile and a shake of his head. Initially, he was single-minded in his pursuit of immortality, even willing to give up his status as the young master of the Crimson Whale gang to become a son-in-law in the Liu family. But now, after more than 4 years, he had come to understand that the path of cultivation was not as wonderful as he had imagined, it was extremely brutal. If one's spiritual root talent was poor and they had no family background, cultivation could be much harder than struggling in the mortal realm. You don't sound like yourself. What, are you regretting embarking on this path of cultivation? Lu Chongsheng raised his eyebrows when he heard this. This was not the Li Feiyu he remembered. He still remembered Li Feiyu's words from back then, life is but 100-year dream, and one must not miss the chance at immortality if it arises, which led him to forsake his position as the young master of the Crimson Whale gang to be a son-in-law at the Liu family. Chapter 53, Encouragement, Demonic Spirit Root. _1 Regret? Not really, but sometimes I do wonder, is it all worth it? Li Feiyu slightly shook his head, speaking with a hint of wistfulness. People always grow, and over the 4 years at the Liu family, he too had his edges worn down and was no longer as brash and confident as he once was. Hearing this, Lu Chongsheng fell into a brief silence. He thought of his past self. Full of passion at graduation, extremely diligent, but gradually began to settle for less a few years later. And Li Feiyu was in an even more severe situation. In secular life, as the young master of the Crimson Whale gang, he was a top expert at 18, and calling him a promising youth was no exaggeration. But upon coming to the cultivation world and becoming a son-in-law to the Liu family, although he stepped onto the cultivation path, life was just about having children, with hardly any hope seen in cultivation. How could such a life continue to be filled with passion and brilliance? He stood up, patted Li Feiyu on the shoulder, and said, Feiyu, I always remember what you said back then. It was when you chose to come to the Liu family, that saying life is but a dream of 100 years, if a chance at immortality presents itself, it cannot be missed. You and I are fortunate to possess the spiritual root and to step onto the path of immortality, to see the scenery beyond the reach of common folk. We are already luckier than 99% of the world. We must be brave, make diligent progress, press on valiantly, so as not to fail the precious gift from heaven. Be it the arduous or treacherous journey of seeking immortality, it is all just part of life's landscape. Do not forget why you started. Continue to hone yourself, and persevere to the end. Even if you should fail, you will have no regrets. Otherwise, possessing the spiritual root and a chance at immortality, yet giving up on yourself and quitting halfway, to ultimately lead a mediocre life, would you be content? Lu Chongsheng looked at Li Feiyu and spoke out. He did not want to see his spirited, immortality-seeking brother grind away his edges and lose his sharpness in such a life, ending up mediocre. Moreover, these words were not just for Li Feiyu, but also for himself. Externally, he always seemed indifferent to ambition, seeking only a peaceful life. But in reality, from the moment he awakened the memories of his past life and learned of the existence of immortals in this world, his heart harbored an endless yearning to pursue cultivation. No reason needed. Being an immortal warrants the pursuit. No reason required, nor needed. However, he had the system by his side, could see hope, and was also full of hope for his future. Hearing what Lu Chongsheng had to say, Li Feiyu's spirit was greatly shaken. He hadn't expected his brother, who always seemed to lack grand aspirations and only wanted a life of pleasure with multiple wives and children, to utter such inspiring words. But he also knew that Lu Chongsheng was comforting him, encouraging him. Yet, in the next moment, he suddenly remembered what Han Lin had mentioned at their 3-year reunion, that Lu Chongsheng had once placed first in the heart-testing platform during the 4th trial at the Qingyan sect. The heart-testing platform tests one's Dao heart. That is, the mindset and will to seek immortality. If Lu Chongsheng could achieve first place, how could he truly lack ambition and relinquish the pursuit of immortality? That's it, Chongsheng knows he possesses a 9th-grade spiritual root, and there is no path to immortality in this life, so he seeks immortality in a different way. By marrying and having children, multiplying his offspring, he carries on the heart of seeking immortality, and trusting it to his descendants. Li Feiyu thought to himself. In this moment, his heart seemed much clearer. If he really had no grand ambition and only knew indulgence in sensual pleasures, focusing on progeny, how could he possibly have sold the flying sword he obtained not long after arriving at the Lu family, and spend all the spirit stones to learn talisman making? And in 4.5 years, he went from a son-in-law to a middle-grade talisman master, marrying the granddaughter of the Lu family's elder. This clearly wasn't what someone indifferent to ambition and obsessed with pleasures would achieve. If his own brother could do so much, how could he be any worse, any farther behind? Looking at Lu Chongsheng with newfound resolve in his eyes, he said, "Content? Of course not. Chongsheng, you are right, the chance for immortality is rare, and we are fortunate to have witnessed it. How could we possibly give up easily? Ordinary folk seek nothing but fame, fortune, and social status, but what we desire is immortal longevity, which obviously isn't easy. That's exactly why we should strive even harder, with a heart that dares to pursue what seems impossible. Life is but a dream of 100 years, with a sight of immortality before us, we must not live it in mediocrity." "Thank you, Chongsheng." Li Feiyu spoke, his eyes alight with a sharp and burning flame. "No need to thank me, I simply don't want to see you, before truly entering the world of cultivation, losing your edges and your sharpness." Lu Chongsheng said aloud. In this world, he didn't have many friends, Li Feiyu was pretty much the only one he could count. He still hoped that Li Feiyu could go a long way on the path of cultivation in the future. How could Li Feiyu be so easily defeated? "Now that I'm no longer bound by a mere contract, once the child grows a bit more and I break through to the middle stage of qi refinement, I'll go out and make my mark, truly experiencing the cultivation world. Otherwise, if things keep going like this, I'm afraid I'll really lose my edge and dull my sharpness. If I end up as a pile of dry bones one day, I'll have to trouble you to take care of my wives and children." Li Feiyu said with a laugh, full of nonchalance. Having come from a Jianghu gang, he was quite philosophical about life and death, but he couldn't let go of the people around him. "Don't you be setting up your banner so early." Lu Chongsheng's mouth twitched as he said. "Setting up what banner?" Li Feiyu asked. "It's nothing, if anything unexpected does happen, I'll take care of your wife and kids myself." Lu Chongsheng said with a smile, shaking his head. Li Feiyu didn't take these words to heart and the two continued to catch up on old times. Ever since Lu Chongsheng moved to Jianghu Valley, the two of them really had fewer opportunities to meet and chat. Lu Chongsheng also brought out the Bu bamboo wine he had just bought from the 5th elder and shared a bottle with Li Feiyu. After a small drink, Lu Chongsheng didn't stay long and went straight back to report Li Feiyu's situation to the 4th elder. The 4th elder was very efficient and had everything sorted out for Li Feiyu the next day, dissolving the contract he had signed with the Lu family before. Thanks to Uncle Fuss arrangements, Li Feiyu chose to become a spiritual butcher due to his expertise in martial arts and blade techniques. A spiritual butcher is much like a regular butcher. One who skins demon beasts, debones them, extracts their marrow, takes their cores, and so on, handling their dissection. There are many special demon beasts that, after being hunted down, are not only troublesome to harvest materials from but also can easily lead to waste and damage to the materials. In such cases, they would hire a skilled spiritual slaughterer to handle the dissection and material recovery. As Li Feiyu chose to become a spiritual butcher, the Liu family naturally had an experienced hand to guide him. If it weren't for Li Feiyu's lack of strength, he would have wanted to join the Liu family's patrol hunting team to hunt demon beasts. Seeing Li Feiyu free himself from childcare to learn a trade, Liu Chongsheng was also relieved. This was pretty much all he could help with at the moment. At the border between Jiang country's Qing province and Jizhou, there stood a precipitous range of hills, with eerie and oddly shaped rocks, filled with dense mists, over a bottomless cliff. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, woo woo woo, the cold wind howled in the valley, and the grey mist pervaded, making one's heart palpitate. In the center, a crimson lake had now dried up. Only a huge blood cocoon and a pile of stacked bones remained. The blood-red glow on the cocoon flickered on and off like a heart beating quietly, breathing, incredibly eerie. Just then, the blood cocoon emitted a dull heartbeat sound, like a giant drum vibrating, shaking the entire valley involuntarily. Moments later, in the void, an old man and a young man appeared. The young man was dressed in a wide black robe, and his black hair was tied up with a wooden pin, giving him an exceptionally handsome look, a beauty that was tantalizing and marked with a maturity beyond his years. As expected of the demonic spirit root, to have integrated the demon lord's blood and completed the baptism so quickly. The young man looked at the blood cocoon and chuckled lightly, his tone full of a strange affinity. "Congratulations, ancestor. Good fortune to you, ancestor." The old man immediately bowed in salute and congratulated. The young man chuckled again and lightly pointed at the blood cocoon. Suddenly, the cocoon began to crack open bit by bit, turning into specks of blood-red light, revealing the man wrapped inside. The man, in his 20s, had an elegant and handsome face, with skin white and smooth, but there was a half-moon blood lotus on his brow, faint yet indelible, adding a sense of wicked enchantment. He slowly regained consciousness, opening his eyes. They were different from ordinary people's, shining with a dark and blood-red light, captivating and eerie. "Where am I? I remember. I think I encountered bandits and then I jumped off a cliff." Chu Chang'e, as if awakening from a dream, with blood-red eyes full of confusion, rubbed the center of his brow. But the next moment, he saw his palms had become as pale as jade, his fingernails sharp and fierce, glowing an eerie red, and he was taken aback. What is this?" Then he saw the piles of white bones around him and got another shock, filled with terror. Before he could linger on his astonishment, a young man approached him and said with a laugh, "From today on, you are my disciple." Chapter 54, Only Strength is Eternal. _1 Jiang Country, Qing Province, Zhoushan Mansion. A youth, a young man, an old man, appeared out of thin air in a desolate and dilapidated courtyard, overgrown with weeds. "Is this my home? How did my home become like this?" The young man frowned slightly as he looked at the ruined courtyard before him. It was clear that this courtyard had been uninhabited for a long time. Chu Chang'e couldn't help feeling a sense of ominous foreboding as he looked at the scene before him. He quickly circled the yard and then ran to the main entrance to confirm that this was indeed his home. Why would my parents move without reason? Even if they moved, they wouldn't just abandon the house like this. Chu Chang'e muttered to himself in a low voice, but a wrenching pain surged in his heart, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably, and his dark red eyes glowed with a bloody light as if they were filled with undried fresh blood. Trying to suppress the throbbing pain in his heart, he ran to the street and asked passers-by what had happened to the Chu family. But the passers-by who saw his blood-red, dull eyes all reacted like startled rabbits, their faces changing drastically in fear as they ran away. Finally, a trembling vendor spoke out. "No one knows what sins the Chu family committed, but a year ago, the entire family was murdered. As far as I know, the case remains unsolved to this day." As the words fell, boom! Chu Chang'e felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and his brain seemed to explode. He stumbled and half-knelt on the ground, vomiting a mouthful of fresh blood. No, no, no! Impossible, absolutely impossible. He couldn't believe it, mumbling in denial as images of his kind parents, his clever and innocent little sister, floated through his mind. He refused to believe that his parents, his sister, Uncle Sue, and Auntie had all died. But the reality was right in front of him, leaving him with no rationale for explanation. Ah! Chu Changa let out a heart-wrenching howl to the sky, his eyes splitting with rage, and tears of blood streamed down his face, full of sorrow. His face twisted in pain, and a crescent moon-like red lotus appeared on his forehead, oozing with blood, allowing strands of bloody aura in his body to run wild, and behind him, the phantom of a three-headed, six-armed figure emerged in blood. Even more alarming was that his black hair turned white at a visible rate. As expected of the demonic spirit root, merely baptized by the blood of the demon lord and without even starting cultivation or full integration, he can already stimulate the demonic blood lying dormant within. In the courtyard, the youth looked at Chu Change's condition and chuckled lightly. Elder, won't he think that we had someone do this and thus harbor resentment towards us? The old man asked cautiously. What of resentment? Resentment gives motivation. With this child's potential, just a bit of diligent cultivation is needed, and within 100 years, he can condense the demonic body. What I want is for him to condense the demonic body as fast as possible and to achieve great mastery in it," said the youth indifferently, always with a faint smile on his face. At this moment, Chu Changa, who had been half kneeling on the ground, suddenly stood up, gasping for air, his whole body trembling as he clenched his fists and came to the middle of the courtyard. His face was fierce and his eyes bloodshot as he stared at the youth and the old man and yelled, "Was it you who did this? Insolence!" Upon hearing Chu Change's words, the old man immediately rebuked him, exuding a majestic aura that made Chu Changa feel as if he was carrying a great weight, and he knelt down with a thump, struggling to breathe. The youth waved his hand and looked at Chu Changa, saying, "Today, as your teacher, I'll teach you your first lesson. Don't be impulsive in anything you do, think thrice before you act. What is the significance of you questioning me so impulsively? What difference does it make whether it was me or not me? Acts like yours are foolish. Aside from impotent rage, you cause yourself trouble and may ultimately lose your life for nothing, accomplishing nothing in the end. Remember, in this world, only your own strength is eternal. You have the demonic spirit root and are baptized with the blood of the demon lord, making you an exceptional talent for the demon path. What you need to do now is to bide your time, practice cultivation in secret, and once you have the strength, you begin investigating the truth and avenging your family. However, since it's your first offense, as your mentor, I will forgive and forget," the youth said in an unhurried tone. "All right, now that you have visited home, come with me." As the words of the youth fell, the three of them turned into a divine rainbow and disappeared from the courtyard. Jianghu Valley. Within a manner, hurry not when uninvolved, self-reliant when facing injustice, peace is best, but if foes rise, strike them first, without surprise, personal desire leads to woes, live content, then cultivate your soul. Lu Chongsheng was teaching the three-character classic to Lu Pingan, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Wuyo, the little fellows of the household, using a wooden board. "My dear, it's time to eat, what exactly are you teaching them?" At this moment, Lu Miaoyun came to call Lu Chongsheng for dinner. "They are 3 or 4 years old now, so I made up some things for them to read." As a form of enlightenment, Lu Chongsheng got up with a smile, calling the group of little ones inside to have a meal. Lu Miaoyun also knew that although her husband came from a peasant family, he was always eager to learn and often read books. So it was normal for him to compile some phrases for enlightenment. However, the sentences for enlightenment sounded rather odd to her. She didn't pay it much attention. Her beautiful face beamed with a sweet smile. "For enlightenment, there's a white deer mountain villa on Jianghu Mountain, which has scholars hired from the secular world. You could send Pingan and the others there for their education. You are busy with many things, my husband, let me take care of this matter," Lu Miaoyun said. "Let's wait until they're a bit bigger, and send them all together next year." Lu Chongqing nodded and said. The White Deer Mountain Villa was within Jianghu Mountain, not too far away, making it feasible for the wives to take turns picking up and dropping off the children. After all, he didn't have much time to teach the children, and it was not certain he could teach them well. Moreover, Lu Chongqing didn't have many expectations for the children. As long as they grew up safely and didn't cause trouble for him as their father, it was sufficient. He was not like most parents who wish for their sons to become dragons and their daughters to become phoenixes. Mainly because there wasn't much to hope for. With the system within him, he knew among these children, only the 7th and 17th ones had spiritual roots. The others didn't have spiritual roots and their futures lay within the secular world. With him as their father, these children would already be better off than 90% of ordinary people in the secular world, and hard work could only get them so far. Of course, he did have some expectations. He planned for these children to practice martial arts as they grew, to achieve martial Dao innate. Then, to marry and start businesses early, establishing a martial arts family in the secular world, to branch out the Lu family. Honestly, with him as their father to support them, these two tasks were not difficult. As for children like the 7th and 17th, Lu Chongqing actually didn't have high hopes either. After all, the quality of their spiritual roots was there for all to see. He was very clear about the hardships of cultivating with such spiritual roots. Lu Chongqing didn't want his children to struggle or suffer too much, moderation was enough. After all, one can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. His Lu family was not in a rush for quick success, focusing instead on a long-term future. Lu Chongqing didn't think much of it and went to the dining hall with Lu Miaoyun and the children for dinner. Chapter 55, Emerald Bamboo Rice, Metaphysics. _1 In the middle of the dining hall, a large revolving round table was set up to seat the entire family. Of course, the children were still young and did not sit at the table. When they grew older, or should there be more wives and concubines, there would not be enough room. Husband, this emerald bamboo spirit rice was cooked for 3 hours with spiritual fire by Shaoqing. Try it and see how it tastes, said Miaoyun as she carried a small wooden barrel crafted from emerald bamboo spirit wood to serve Chongqing a bowl of rice. As Chongqing sat down at the head of the table, Lu Miaoyun scooped a bowl of rice for him from a small jade green bamboo barrel. Each grain of rice in the bowl was vividly green and crystal clear, resembling beads of agate or jade, emitting a refreshing bamboo fragrance that tantalized the appetite. Chongqing took a bite and immediately savored the lingering taste in his mouth. After 2 more bites, he commented, "This is indeed first-grade spirit rice, the flavor is truly good. You all should try it too," Chongqing said to his wives and concubines. This emerald bamboo spirit rice had just been delivered by the Lu family the day before. It was one of the benefits given to him for his promotion to middle-grade talisman master. After becoming a middle-grade talisman master, his basic benefits did not change much. In addition to the standard monthly allowance of 10 spirit stones, 30 caddies of spirit rice, and a bottle of yellow dragon elixir, he now received an extra 20 caddies of emerald bamboo spirit rice, a special product of the Lu family. The emerald bamboo spirit rice, with every grain resembling jade, not only contains rich spiritual energy and tastes sweet but also has the effect of nurturing the body, cleansing impurities, and purifying flesh and blood over long-term consumption. Ordinary grains and vegetables inevitably leave impurities settled within the body. That is why cultivators usually consume spirit rice. Emerald bamboo spirit rice is a step above ordinary spirit rice and is considered first-grade spirit rice. Even for the Lu family, the annual yield is limited. Only certain members like the family elders and guest elders receive a set portion each month. This time, due to Changsheng's advancement to middle-grade talisman master and his marriage to Lu Miaoyun, the Lu family granted him an allowance of 20 caddies per month. Beyond the reward of emerald bamboo spirit rice, the other change was that by completing the monthly talisman-making tasks assigned by the Lu family, he could now earn an additional spirit stone bonus. Unlike before, where there were no rewards for completing the assigned tasks. The bonus wasn't much, but it wasn't insignificant either, currently amounting to 10 spirit stones. Moreover, for any extra talismans made beyond the quota, the Liu family agreed to purchase them at market price. This arrangement could be considered an indirect improvement in benefits, adding an incentive to perform better. Naturally, Changsheng had no objections to this and felt it was satisfactory. After all, if one were to account for it, the Liu family marrying off Lu Miaoyun to him, along with a young maidservant as part of the dowry, could also be seen as a reward. Having spent the past few days together, Changsheng grew quite fond of his young wife Miaoyun. Though she showed a bit of youthful temperament, she was very well behaved and sensible. Far from acting like a spoiled lady, she quickly became close with his other wives and concubines in the backyard, leading to a very harmonious relationship and displaying a degree of mature elegance. This pleased Changsheng greatly. Indeed, beauty does not surpass a resplendent heart. A virtuous wife supports my ambitions to soar high. For Changsheng, in terms of taking a wife or concubines, looks or physical appearance were not his primary concern. Being above average in appearance was sufficient, spiritual root aptitude and moral character were much more important. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. On hearing Changsheng's words, the wives and concubines began to eat. However, there wasn't much of the emerald bamboo spirit rice, just a small barrel's worth, and after Changsheng took a generous serving for himself, the rest only took a small portion to taste. At that moment, Xiaoqing also brought out the remaining dishes on a tray. As Miaoyun's maidservant, her skills were in spirit plant cultivation and cooking. Although she wasn't a spirit chef, her cooking skills were excellent and would be considered top-notch in the mundane world. Hence, upon coming with Miaoyun, she took on the role of a junior cook. There is a spot available, Xiaoqing, come sit and eat, Changsheng said. We don't have that many rules here, he added, glancing at Xiaoqing. I'm not hungry. The clear, large eyes of Xiaoqing looked up at Lu Changsheng, and her face showed a well-behaved smile as she chirped. Xiaoqing, if your husband tells you to sit down, then sit down, said Lu Miaoyun, who also knew that her own husband wasn't one for many formalities or complex rituals. She rose to her feet, pulling on Xiaoqing's arm, and had her sit down beside them. Thank you, master, said Xiaoqing in her crisp voice, after which she also filled a bowl with rice and began to eat a little at a time. That night, afterwards, husband, Lu Miaoyun, bedewed with fragrant sweat, lay weakly in Lu Changsheng's arms and said with shyness and timidity, Your concubine can't go on, let Xiaoqing come in to serve my lord. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng felt a warmth in his heart. His little charming wife was indeed considerate and well-behaved. It's all right, let your husband cherish Yuner first. Lu Changsheng pinched his wife's cheek and then climbed on top again. Time flew quickly, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. Through the daily nutrition and nourishment of spirit rice and spiritual wine, Lu Changsheng could clearly feel his physical condition had improved a level from before. However, regarding the 100 Refinements treasure body art, there was still no progress. There was no helping it, orthodox level body refining techniques were just like that. Powerful as they may be, the threshold for cultivation was really high. It was very difficult to get started, requiring an extremely strong physical foundation. Lu Changsheng's body, not being drained by sensual pleasures, was already quite good, but it was not nearly enough to talk about a strong physical foundation. Thus, if he wanted to cultivate the 100 Refinements treasure body art, he could only rely on slowly nurturing his body and enduring with time. He estimated that, at the current pace, it would take at least 2 or 3 years to get started. Unless, as he had thought before, he could take a shortcut through the system's lucky draw and obtain a magical treasure, using the condensation method in the 100 Refinements treasure body art to integrate the treasure into his body and use it to nurture himself. But that was still a bit far off. His 21st child had just been born not long ago. To enter the draw, he would need at least 9 more children. Moreover, even after having 30 children, it was not certain whether the system would give out child money. But regardless of whether the system complemented or not, Lu Chongsheng always remembered that having children was the most important. With the efforts of this past month, Lu Miaoyun had also successfully conceived. Although it was said that when a female cultivator becomes pregnant, it damages the vital essence and greatly hinders cultivation, the higher-ups in the Lu family were all delighted to hear it. Because in the eyes of the Lu family's upper echelons, the more children the two had, the more stable the marriage would be, and the more firmly Lu Chongsheng would be tied to the Lu family. Lu Chongsheng was also very happy. With Lu Miaoyun possessing a 7th grade spiritual root, there was a great chance that their children would have spiritual roots. Especially with the example set by Chu Zhenjin, he had high expectations for the child in Lu Miaoyun's womb. After Lu Miaoyun became pregnant, the family head Lu Yuanding and the 4th elder both sent over nutritional supplements. In the cultivation world, there was a rather mystical belief. If a mother's environment during pregnancy was good, with ample nutrition and sufficient spiritual energy to nourish the fetus, then the probability of the child having a spiritual root, and the quality of that root, would be higher. Whether this was true or not was difficult to verify. But now that he had the means, Lu Chongsheng was willing to believe in this mysticism. He took out some of his spirit stones, enabling his wives and children to eat spirit rice and spirit vegetables every day. In the past, the 30 caddies of spirit rice provided by the Lu family every month were simply not enough for his entire household. He was the priority receiver, his wives and children could only occasionally eat spirit rice and vegetables. But now, there had been a small improvement in the perks and benefits provided by the Lu family. Coupled with the stable income from talisman sales through Hong Yi and the profits from Bullhead Mountain, Lu Chongsheng could finally afford to improve the dietary conditions for his wives and children. Chapter 56, My Demon Path Big Uncle. _1 This day. Lu Chongsheng received a letter. It was from Hong Yi, who wrote that someone he had sent out had learned of a piece of news in Zhoushan Mansion. A strange man had appeared in the Chu family courtyard. According to his investigation, there was a high probability that this man was Chu Chang'e. Because someone there recognized Chu Chang'e's appearance. And this strange man appeared within the Chu family, asking people about what had happened there. So putting all these circumstances together, it was almost certain that this man was Chu Chang'e. But for some reason, whereas Chu Chang'e was once known for his refined and handsome scholar appearance, he had now transformed into something demonic and ominous, his eyes an extremely blood red, like a monster's. In the letter, Hong Yi said that after Chu Chang'e appeared, he disappeared without a trace, with no further news. He suspected that Chu Chang'e had also started on the path of cultivation, but it was of the demon path, and warned Lu Chongsheng to be careful. Demon path. After finishing the letter, Lu Chongsheng's eyes slightly narrowed. About what he knew, the cultivation world of Jianghu country revered the heavenly sword sect. The major immortal sects, immortal cities, and cultivating clans, were all seemingly righteous forces on the surface. Not one of them was from the demonic sects. Thus in Jianghu country, there was no fertile ground for the existence of demonic path cultivators. On the rare occasion there were some demon cultivators, they were often loose cultivators who had obtained a demonic inheritance. Lu Chongsheng never expected that his newfound uncle would take up the demon path. I wonder if this big uncle will come looking for Qingzhou Mountain. Lu Chongsheng thought to himself. He certainly wasn't worried about this big uncle of his finding Qingzhou Mountain. After all, a clear conscience fears no midnight knocking. Not only had he saved Chu Zhenjin, but their affection for each other was mutual. Could it be that this big uncle would come to cause him trouble? Even if Chu Chang'e did not understand the true situation and came to bother him, he would still need the ability to find him. In Lu Chongsheng's view, since Chu Zhenjin had an 8th grade spiritual root, even if her brother had a spiritual root, it likely wouldn't be much better. Moreover, in Jianghu country, demon cultivators were akin to rats crossing the street, despised and pursued by everyone. Under these circumstances, how could he possibly come to Jianghu mountain to trouble him? Sigh, it seems my big uncle is also a tragic figure. Entering the path of cultivation, yet choosing the demon path, only to come home and learn of his family's destruction. Lu Chongsheng heaved a sigh and shook his head. He had a rather good impression of this big uncle of his, whom he had never met. Because over the past year and more, Chu Zhenjin had told him many things from their childhood. Among these, she often mentioned this inexpensive big uncle. According to Chu Zhenjin, her brother, though always studying and not one to smile or speak much, preferring to preach lofty principles, was not a rigid person. He was very affectionate towards his little sister and often helped her clean up her messes, even hiding them from their parents when she made mistakes. I won't tell Zhenjin about this for now, so she doesn't worry. If I have the capacity to help in the future, I might indeed lend a hand to this big uncle, of course, that is if he's still alive. As for now, forget about it. Lu Chongsheng took a deep breath and let it out long, not dwelling further on this matter. At present, he was merely a weak qi refinement third-level cultivator, barely surviving in Jianghu mountain. This big uncle of his, he couldn't really help at the moment, nor did he want to trouble himself with caring. He then replied to Hong Yi with a letter, telling him not to inquire into Chu Chang's whereabouts anymore. Otherwise, if they got involved with a demon cultivator, it would be another hassle. That night. Afterwards. Chu Zhenjin's cheeks were scarlet, her face flushed, her eyes dazed with enchantment as she slowly came back to her senses. She punched Lu Chongsheng with her small fist and scolded, "You're terrible, forget about the three of us attending to you again, you only know how to bully people." Lu Miaoyun, on the other hand, was embarrassed like an ostrich tucking into its blanket, while Shao Qing, though somewhat shy, was relatively more composed and continued to attend to Lu Chongsheng. "Heh, isn't it rare though? Look, your Yuner isn't saying anything," Lu Chongsheng chuckled. "Husband, please, no more, it's so embarrassing." Lu Miaoyun buried her head in the blanket, her voice muffled and breathy. Half a month later. "Husband, I've completed drawing breath into the body and have become a cultivator." This day, Chu Zhenjin, with a gold hairpin and pendant on her head, and dressed in a pink and white skirt, approached Lu Chongsheng with a face full of joy and excitement to report the good news. After spending more than a year in Jianghu mountain, the baby fat on her face had faded, her naive charm had retreated, and her tender figure had become much more alluring. On her pure and lovely face, a few traces of the charm of a wife and a mother have emerged. My Zhenjin has broken through to qi refinement first level. Upon hearing this news, Lu Chongsheng was very happy. Since his wives possessed spiritual roots, he naturally hoped that they would all embark on the path of cultivation and accompany him for a bit longer. Leaving aside the future possibilities of becoming his supporters, at the very least, cultivation would benefit their health in many ways. The reason Chu Zhenjin had only now broken through to the first level of qi refinement was that pregnancy, nurturing, and body recovery had delayed her cultivation. Otherwise, in Jianghu Valley, with access to a second-grade spiritual vein and even without cultivation resources, she would have already achieved this breakthrough long ago. Looking at the little wife in front of him, whose every frown and smile was captivating, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but pull her into his arms and said, "To celebrate my Zhenjin becoming a cultivator, let your husband reward you handsomely." Even though she was already a mother, Chu Zhenjin's shy nature had not changed. Upon hearing these words, she immediately blushed deeply, her heart filled with embarrassment. Before she could say anything, she felt a warm kiss on her lips, followed by her body growing a bit weak. After a while, Chu Zhenjin's voice became urgent, and she gasped, "Husband, let's return to the bedroom." "It's fine, we're at home, and there's no one around." Lu Chongsheng spoke softly. Soon after, accompanied by Chu Zhenjin's coquettish stammering and rustling sounds, the small courtyard in the midst of autumn gained a touch of spring. In the following days, Lu Changsheng devoted most of his energy to Chuzhenjin. Since Chuzhenjin had made a breakthrough to the first level of qi refinement, and given that it had been 6 months since her last delivery, he naturally needed to take good care of her and start working towards the second child. In the blink of an eye, the end of the month arrived. Every month's end was the day the fourth elder would hold a lecture on talisman making. That day, after getting up and finishing his breakfast, Lu Changsheng went to the fourth elder's residence. Since he had visited once before, he didn't need someone to guide the way. Lu Changsheng confidently made his way through the corridors to reach a quiet courtyard. The courtyard walls were lined with green and jade-like Qingling bamboo. In the center was a small pavilion with 5 tables and chairs placed nearby. Currently, next to the pavilion, a stunning figure stood tall and straight. Her face was lovely, her eyes clear as water, dressed in a white skirt simple and elegant. Her lustrous black hair cascaded down her back, hanging softly to the waist of her snowy dress, in a striking contrast of black and white. Adorning only the simple white dress and shoes, her graceful figure and elegant bearing exuded a unique allure, carrying a breath of ethereal otherworldliness. The gentle breeze blew, and strands of sunlight fell upon her, illuminating her white dress. It bathed her in a layer of sacred golden radiance, making her appear all the more divine and noble. Seeing Lu Miaoge standing as if she had stepped out from a painting, Lu Changsheng could not help but show a hint of admiration in his eyes. Perhaps it was because since the awakening of his memories, the first fairy he encountered in the cultivation realm was Lu Miaoge, giving him a special sentiment towards her in his heart. Previously, upon seeing Lu Miaoge, due to the disparity in their statuses, Lu Changsheng harbored thoughts but didn't feel much. Now, with the confidence given by the system and the rise in status of the Lu family, Lu Miaoge no longer seemed unattainable to him. Thus, every time he saw Lu Miaoge, he couldn't help but nurture thoughts he hadn't entertained before. Thoughts of conquering the celestial beauty, who seemed pure and unworldly, under his body to taste at will. Sigh, no wonder many people, once they have money and power, become morally corrupt. Lu Changsheng shook his head internally. He had just recently married Lu Miaoyun, and now he was already harboring inappropriate thoughts toward his wife's cousin. Eldest Mississippi. Lu Changsheng didn't dwell on such thoughts. He greeted Lu Miaoge with a smile. As a talisman master of the Lu family, Lu Miaoge would come to study talisman making with the fourth elder on this day every month. As for the other Lu family disciples who were learning talisman making, because they were apprentices, the fourth elder divided the lessons into 2 groups. The morning was for Lu Miaoge and Lu Changsheng, and the afternoon was for the other Lu family disciples. Lu Changsheng. Seeing Lu Changsheng, Lu Miaoge greeted him with a light smile. Her smile was faint, as delicate as a snow lotus blooming on the mountain, quickly concealing her mirth to return to her previous serene and ethereal demeanor. This made Lu Changsheng silently think to himself that the 2 sisters were quite similar in this respect. Neither of them liked to smile much, but when they did, it was very beautiful. He didn't go over to chat or anything, even if he harbored thoughts about Lu Miaoge, it wasn't as if he could just go up and pursue her. One reason was that his current status was not suitable for pursuing her, and besides, one doesn't chase after a girl, one attracts her. Lu Changsheng sat down at a table and chair on the side, waiting for the fourth elder to arrive. Chapter 57, Taking a Talisman Making Class with the Young Miss. _1 It wasn't long before the fourth elder arrived in the courtyard. Her hair was coiled elegantly atop her head, with streaks of silver among the black, and she was dressed in a bluish-brown dress, making her look every bit the dignified and graceful lady of high status. Grandmother. Great-aunt. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge immediately made a formal bow with hands clasped to the fourth elder. There's no need for so much ceremony, please sit. The fourth elder showed a warm and kind face as she waved her hand. Then turning to the 2, she spoke, Changsheng, Miaoge, show me the talismans you've been practicing most recently. Upon hearing this, both brought out their talisman-making tools and began drawing talismans. Lu Chongsheng was still working on the fire cloud talisman he had first revealed. After all, when he had first revealed himself to be a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, his success rate had only been about 10% to 20%, so naturally he still needed to practice. The fourth elder glanced at the talismans being drawn. Seeing Lu Changsheng's steady wrist and confident strokes as he sketched the fire cloud talisman, she couldn't hide a look of surprise. Following, under the watchful eyes of the fourth elder, Lu Chongsheng successfully completed the drawing of the fire cloud talisman. Chongsheng, you must have a success rate of around 60% to 70% when drawing the fire cloud talisman now, right? After watching Lu Changsheng's progress with the fire cloud talisman, the fourth elder exclaimed with a face lit up by a trace of pleasant surprise. Lu Miaoge, who was at the side drawing her talisman, trembled slightly in her fair wrist upon hearing this, resulting in the failure of the talisman she was working on. Then she turned her bright eyes towards Lu Chongsheng. Her delicate face expressed clear astonishment. She was well aware that it was just 2 months ago that Lu Chongsheng had achieved the status of a first-grade middle-grade talisman master. In just 2 months, he had improved his success rate with the first-grade middle-grade fire cloud talisman to 60% to 70%. Such talent in talisman making was truly terrifying. She couldn't help recalling 3 years ago when Lu Chongsheng became a talisman-making apprentice, and she had accompanied Uncle Fu to assess him. She had recognized then that Lu Changsheng's talent for talisman making was higher than her own. But she had never expected, Lu Changsheng's talisman making talent was even greater than she had thought, so much greater. Without anyone's guidance, in just over 3 years, he had become a middle-grade talisman master. Now, under the mentorship of the fourth elder, the fire cloud talisman, which originally only had a success rate of 20%, had improved in just 1 month to a staggering 60% to 70% success rate. This progress was simply terrifying. Even though she was usually as calm and poised as water and was already trying to draw superior grade talismans to challenge for the superior grade talisman master title, in that moment, in front of Lu Chongsheng, she couldn't help feeling a sense of despondency and frustration. She pursed her lips, put aside her feelings of loss and defeat, and took out a new piece of talisman paper to start drawing again. It's all thanks to your guidance last time, grandmother. I've been practicing hard at home to achieve this success rate. Lu Chongsheng answered with a nod. He was unaware that his behavior had caused Lu Miaoge to feel frustrated. This display of talent with the fire cloud talisman was something he had planned in advance and was part of his strategy. He wanted to make use of the pretext of the fourth elder's guidance to accelerate the unveiling of his own talents in talisman making. Excellent, excellent, that's very good. Grandmother can see that you're fairly proficient with the fire cloud talisman. It's just during the transitions, the drawing of the talisman lines is not quite smooth enough with spiritual power. However, with more practice and familiarity in your daily routine, that should improve. The fourth elder said, praising Lu Chongsheng after hearing his words. She continued to address Lu Chongsheng, then today, grandmother will teach you how to draw the windwalking talisman. The windwalking talisman, like the fire cloud talisman, is a first-grade middle-grade talisman. In terms of difficulty, it's slightly more challenging than the fire cloud talisman. Thank you, grandmother. Lu Chongsheng spoke respectfully. He had no preference over which talisman to learn or practice, and simply followed the fourth elder's arrangements. One reason was that he did not care much, another was that it was part of the terms of the spiritual contract with the Lu family. He had to follow the Lu family's arrangements and practice the respective talismans. The windwalking talisman is different from the fire cloud talisman. It emphasizes softness, not just in the brushwork but also in the output of spiritual power, carrying a sense of roundness. A critical point with the windwalking talisman is that every time you reach a turning point, the brushwork should be light and smooth, and the spiritual power must be continuously bounced out in a gentle stream. The fourth elder explained the essentials of the windwalking talisman to Lu Chongsheng. She then drew a windwalking talisman on the spot, allowing Lu Chongqing to sense the fluctuations of spiritual power on it and to imitate the lines drawn upon it. Yes, grandmother. Seeing this, Lu Chongqing nodded and picked up a stack of blank papers from the table to familiarize himself with the talisman lines. When starting to draw a new talisman, it is common to practice drawing talisman lines on blank paper first, before trying to create it on real talisman paper. Starting directly with talisman paper would generally be wasteful, as failure was almost certain at that stage. Of course, for someone exceptional like Lu Chongqing, it was a different case. But in front of the fourth elder, he naturally still presented himself as earnestly learning. Then, the fourth elder turned her attention towards Lu Miaoge, who was in the process of talisman making, only to see that Lu Miaoge's talisman had failed again. Knowing that Lu Miaoge was still unfamiliar with the talisman she was drawing, the speaker outlined the key points. Miaoge, the golden light barrier talisman values firmness as the main aspect, with softness as a supplement. The strokes must be soft, yet firm, and the output of spiritual power must also be strong and powerful. When you make the first stroke, your touch and spiritual power should be like cotton wrapped around iron. At the first turn of the talisman line, you need to add a bit more gathering feel, while your spiritual power should release. After the ninth turn, the power must flow continuously without end, making talismans, with higher grades of talismans, becomes more difficult and complex. The process of beginning, continuing, turning, and concluding, every stroke and line, follows very strict standards. Just the technique of making the initial stroke includes a great deal of specifics, such as being robust and powerful, firm yet soft, soft yet firm, a combination of strength and gentleness, and so on, extremely complex. Like the golden light barrier talisman that Lu Miaoge was drawing, it is a superior grade first grade talisman, very complex, and a notch above middle grade talismans. Yes, fourth grandmother. Hearing this, Lu Miaoge nodded, her delicate features showing a concentrated expression as she continued to lean over and draw the talisman. But halfway through, the talisman paper emitted blue smoke, signifying failure. Miaoge, when you were tracing the talisman lines, your stroke was too forceful, which clashed with the spiritual power, leading to failure. Come, feel my spiritual power, the force. The fourth elder pointed out the mistake. She immediately took hold of Lu Miaoge's hand and slowly drew out the golden light barrier talisman. Lu Chongqing also glanced over in their direction. He could see that the fourth elder was indeed skilled in talisman making. At the very least, she was very familiar with the golden light barrier talisman. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to guide someone like this in drawing a talisman. Miaoge, using that sensation, try again. After the fourth elder led Lu Miaoge through the completion of the golden light barrier talisman, she spoke. Yes, grandmother. Lu Miaoge nodded gently and then tried drawing it again. But she failed again halfway through the process. Seeing this scene, the fourth elder didn't say anything. She simply encouraged, "It's okay, just practice more, familiarize yourself with it a few times, and you'll be fine." For a talisman master, this was quite normal. If it was possible to succeed after just a few attempts, then becoming a talisman master wouldn't be that difficult. After a while, seeing that Lu Chongqing was also nearly familiar with drawing the windwalking talisman, the fourth elder said to him, "Come, Chongqing, draw a windwalking talisman for me to see." "Yes, grandmother." Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing also began to demonstrate drawing the windwalking talisman. But he failed as well, around 1/5 of the way through. He was talented, but he was not freakishly so. If he succeeded after only 1 or 2 attempts, it would have been too astonishing and potentially problematic. Your hand is very stable, and your strokes are steady, but just now, your spiritual power was a bit rushed. At this step, your hand needs a touch of looseness, and your spiritual power should gently envelop the stroke. Come, feel my spiritual power, the force. After watching Lu Chongqing finish drawing, the fourth elder remarked. She immediately approached and took hold of Lu Changsheng's hand, guiding him stroke by stroke as they slowly completed the windwalking talisman together. Although there were concerns about physical contact between men and women, for the fourth elder, Lu Changsheng was just a junior, and her granddaughter's future husband, and so such concerns were not considered important. Through this process, Lu Changsheng could clearly feel the force and flow of spiritual power coming from the fourth elder's palm. At this step, your hand should be loose, with your spiritual power enveloping the stroke, imparting a sense of bounce, a light flick of the wrist, finishing the rest in one go. Try again. In a kindly tone, the fourth elder instructed Lu Changsheng, then let go of his hand. All right, grandmother. Lu Changsheng nodded, but did not start drawing immediately. Instead, he took out a gourd from his storage bag and took a sip of liquid before continuing. Inside was white jade 100 flowers wine, which had the effect of restoring spiritual power and calming the mind. It was helpful for his talisman making. He naturally didn't need the wine to calm his mind, but it was necessary to help restore his spiritual power. The fourth elder made no comment on this. She knew that Lu Changsheng was only at the third level of qi cultivation and couldn't draw too many first-grade middle-grade talismans without relying on spiritual wine for power restoration. Then, under the fourth elder's watchful eye, Lu Changsheng managed to draw about a quarter of the talisman before failing. Your spiritual power didn't fully envelop the stroke. To be focused on a point, try a few more times. After watching, the fourth elder gave her feedback. And so it went. Under the fourth elder's tutelage, a morning passed. That morning, neither Lu Changsheng nor Lu Miaoge succeeded in creating any new talismans. But they had at least gained an introductory understanding of these types of talismans and grasped their essentials. Next, they just needed to go back and practice more, to become more familiar. Chapter 58, Chu Zhenshan's Second Child, Breakthrough Elixir. One time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed. Chu Zhenshan, who had been receiving special attention from Lu Changsheng, ran to him and said, "Husband, I think I am pregnant." "Pregnant? Let me see." Lu Changsheng, hearing this, was overjoyed and placed his head against Chu Zhenshan's belly. Of course, at this time, there were no fetal movements yet. But as a cultivator, Lu Changsheng could faintly sense the new life being nurtured within her stomach. "Good, good, good, indeed you are pregnant. Come here, Zhenshan, let your husband give you a kiss." Seeing that Chu Zhenshan was pregnant, Lu Changsheng's mood soared. He caressed his delicate wife's cheek and kissed her tender lips fiercely. In the courtyard, there were other sisters present. They couldn't help but cover their mouths and giggle at the scene, leaving Chu Zhenshan blushing. Feeling slightly embarrassed and annoyed, she gave her husband a playful punch. Her fair and charming face was flushed red with shyness, utterly irresistible. Yet this hint of girlish shyness, coupled with Chu Zhenshan's charm as a wife and mother-to-be, was both pure and enticing. It set Lu Changsheng's heart ablaze, making him wish he could take his lovely wife right then and there. However, seeing how happy her husband was, Chu Zhenshan's blushing face also revealed a smile of pure happiness and contentment. Now that both Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenshan were pregnant, Lu Changsheng felt extremely contented, feeling that life was becoming ever more promising. He looked forward eagerly to the birth of his children by the two delicate wives. He also thought of the two beloved concubines who hadn't been pregnant yet, and a maidservant with a spiritual root. But since Lu Miaoyun was only a little over a month pregnant, he wasn't in a hurry for the maidservant Xieching to become pregnant. After all, if a maidservant became pregnant around the same time as his wife, it wouldn't be quite appropriate, it might seem like a competition for favor. Although Lu Changsheng himself didn't really care. But after all, they were in the Lu family, and it was better to be cautious. Therefore, he planned to focus his attention on the two favored concubines next. Regarding these two concubines, Lu Changsheng was also somewhat curious. If they were to get pregnant and have children, he wondered if the children's hair and eye colors would resemble his own or their mother's. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the month, the day the fourth elder taught talisman making. When the fourth elder inspected the progress of Lu Miaoge and Lu Changsheng on their talismans, Lu Changsheng directly took out a windwalking talisman he had drawn and said to the fourth elder, "Grandmother, I successfully made the windwalking talisman yesterday." "What? You made the windwalking talisman?" The fourth elder, upon hearing this, was initially stunned. Then, looking at the talisman in Lu Changsheng's hand, her face lit up with delight. She hadn't expected that in just a month, Lu Changsheng would have succeeded in making the windwalking talisman. You must know that the most difficult part of talisman making is the first step, moving from nothing to something. Once the first step is successful, the subsequent process from 1 to 10 becomes much simpler. Lu Miaoge, standing beside them, also looked at Lu Changsheng with immense surprise upon hearing this. These past 2 months, she had hardly made any significant progress on her golden light barrier talisman. Though the talisman she was practicing was a superior grade talisman, back when she was at Lu Changsheng's current level, it took her roughly 3 months to succeed with the golden light insignia, which was equivalent to the windwalking talisman in difficulty. Yet now, Lu Changsheng had managed to successfully make the windwalking talisman in just 1 month. Lu Miaoge bit her lip gently, feeling somewhat disheartened by the blow. In talisman making, her talent was already considered quite good. Otherwise, among the many Lu family disciples, she wouldn't have been the only talisman master, and she was even on the verge of breaking through to become a first-grade superior talisman master. The fourth elder had told her that she had a real gift for talisman making, with the potential to become a second-grade talisman master one day. But at this moment, her formerly pride-worthy talent in talisman making was completely crushed by Lu Changsheng. She could already foresee the day when she would be surpassed by him. The fourth elder took the windwalking talisman from Lu Changsheng's hands. Her fingers traced it inch by inch, feeling both the strokes and the flow of spiritual power within it. "You don't have any issues with drawing the lines for the talisman, your grip and drawing are exceptionally steady, which shows a rare talent," she said. "However, regarding spiritual power, there's a lot left to be desired in terms of proficiency and stability. For instance, this particular point here has a clear issue. Any carelessness could lead to failure, and then the fourth elder provided a detailed critique of Lu Changsheng's talisman, pointing out the specific issues. She then said, "Changsheng, draw another windwalking talisman for me to see." "Yes, grandmother." Lu Changsheng responded and took out a sheet of talisman paper to begin drawing. However, not even halfway through, the talisman started to give off blue smoke, another failure. At this point, the spiritual power must be wrapped tightly around the brush strokes, but after making a turn, it must be released immediately, with a spring in the motion, the fourth elder said out loud, indicating for Lu Changsheng to continue. After that, Lu Changsheng failed again. He had just started yesterday, so his success rate for making talismans should be at most 10%, naturally, he couldn't show himself to be too skilled. Under the guidance of the fourth elder, Lu Changsheng failed 2 more times. Upon seeing this, the fourth elder didn't say much. She simply comforted him, "It's okay, you're just a bit nervous, and you have just started. Familiarize yourself with it, and you'll be fine. Come, grandmother will guide you through drawing a talisman once more." Afterward, she held Lu Changsheng's hand again and helped him draw the windwalking talisman. "Thank you, grandmother. Changsheng will definitely work hard and not disappoint you," Lu Changsheng said to the fourth elder. "Good child, I am already very satisfied with your performance. Grandmother believes that as long as you work hard, you will surely become a second-rank talisman master in the future," the fourth elder said kindly. She was very satisfied with her grandson-in-law Lu Changsheng. Not only did he have exceptional talent in talisman making, but he was also very steady and treated her granddaughter well. The only fault she could find was that he had too many wives and children. He spent too much time thinking about marrying and having offspring. In her opinion, if Lu Changsheng could concentrate all his efforts on talisman making and focus on the talisman path, he could go much further in the future. By the way, Changsheng, you've been at the 3rd level of qi refinement for a while now, haven't you? Suddenly, the 4th elder turned to Lu Changsheng and asked. Yes, grandmother. I reached the peak of the 3rd level in qi refinement 8 months ago, but as you know, my spiritual root is only 9th grade, Lu Changsheng responded, unable to suppress a wry smile. He had been at the peak of 3rd level in qi refinement 8 months prior. He had not slacked in his cultivation since then, but he had felt no loosening of his bottleneck. With lower-grade spiritual roots, each bottleneck was a barrier. If you need it, grandmother can apply to the family for a breakthrough elixir for you, the 4th elder said after a slight pause. The transition from the 3rd to the 4th level of qi refinement marks the progression from the early stages to the middle stages, a significant hurdle. The poorer the quality of the spiritual root, the harder it is to break through. In such cases, apart from relying on time to grind through, one can also seek help from breakthrough elixir medicines to overcome the bottleneck. Thank you, grandmother, but I would still like to continue trying to break through on my own, Lu Changsheng said, politely refusing. He was frustrated by the bottleneck but not desperate to break through it. For now, he did not wish to rely on elixir medicines. His reasoning was simple. If he used a breakthrough elixir to advance from the 3rd to the 4th level in qi refinement, the difficulty of moving from the 6th to the 7th level would increase. If at the 6th level he again used a breakthrough elixir, it would make the foundation establishment even more challenging later on. Occasional help from elixir medicines like the Yellow Dragon elixir was fine as they had no side effects. However, using breakthrough elixirs that stimulated one's potential to advance could have an impact. For most people, if they weren't considering foundation establishment, using breakthrough elixirs wouldn't be a big deal. But Lu Changsheng's focus was on the future, not the present. Since he wasn't in a rush to break through, he preferred to try and make it on his own for as long as possible. If he truly couldn't progress and needed help, then he would consider using elixir medicines. When the 4th elder heard Lu Changsheng's refusal, she was slightly surprised. But she quickly smiled and praised him. Good, it is spirited of you. If you encounter any problems with your cultivation, feel free to come to grandmother. Lu Miaoge, who was standing nearby, also revealed a touch of surprise in her beautiful eyes upon hearing these words. It was known that breakthrough elixirs were extremely precious. One for breaking through to the middle stages of qi refinement was worth hundreds of spirit stones and was scarce. In the Lu family, it required contributions to exchange for one. Now that the 4th elder had offered to apply for one on behalf of Lu Changsheng and he had declined, expressing a desire to rely on his own effort to break through. For someone with a 9th grade spiritual root, overcoming a bottleneck was far from easy. Nonetheless, she said nothing. Instead, her impression of Lu Changsheng deepened somewhat. She felt that he was very different from the person she had formed an image of. After that, the 4th elder shared some knowledge about talisman making with Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge and told them it was about time to return home. Miss seemed to look at me in a somewhat unusual way just now. As they walked away from the 4th elder's residence, Lu Changsheng surveyed Lu Miaoge's graceful retreating figure, his eyebrows slightly raised. He naturally didn't think that this young lady had taken a liking to him. Could it be that she was struck by the talent in talisman making I've displayed recently? Lu Changsheng suddenly conjectured. He thought to himself, if that's the case, then this young lady isn't as detached and indifferent as she appears on the surface, and not untouched by worldly concerns. Indeed, she is not a true immortal. How could she be free from worldly desires? They all have emotions and desires. The second young lady also seemed cold and noble on the outside, but her true character didn't match that at all. Lu Changsheng chuckled softly, not taking it too to heart, and headed home. Chapter 59, 8th Grade Spiritual Root, 6th lottery draw _1 time flew by. That day, Lu Changsheng's 22nd child was born. Like most children, he was without a spiritual root. Now, for a child to be without spiritual root, Lu Changsheng had grown accustomed to it, completely without expectation. If the child had a spiritual root, it would be a pleasant surprise. However, surprises like that tend to arrive so suddenly, so unexpectedly. 1 month later, when Lu Changsheng's 23rd child was born, he was seized by a deeply mystical tremor. It was the tremor of the child having a spiritual root. Moreover, this particular tremor gave him an indescribable sense of mystery throughout his body. It gave Lu Changsheng a premonition. His spiritual root had advanced. With the addition of this child's spiritual root, his own had risen from a 9th grade to an 8th grade. At that instant, a system notification sound rang out. Congratulations to the host for the birth of 3 children with spiritual roots, receiving 1 lottery draw opportunity. Good, good, good. The tremor from the improvement in spiritual root and the system notification sound filled Lu Changsheng with immense joy and excitement. He had not expected that, with no expectations whatsoever, this child would possess a spiritual root and elevate his own to the 8th grade. And, at the same time, the system had come through with a bonus of child money. Such unexpected and surprising good fortune, or really 2 instances of such surprises, filled him with unstoppable excitement and joy. Husband, what's wrong? His wives, unaware of what had happened to Lu Changsheng, didn't understand why he suddenly appeared so joyful. Lu Changsheng realized that he had gotten a bit carried away with excitement. Mainly because the surprise had come so unexpectedly, so suddenly, that he hadn't managed to keep his composure. An issue with talisman that had troubled me for quite a while just suddenly became clear to me, so I got a little excited for a moment, he said with a smile. Congratulations, husband. Congratulations, husband. Congratulations, husband. Hearing his words, several of his wives also showed smiling faces, voicing their congratulations, without any suspicion or further thought. What's there to congratulate? Our Lu family has been blessed with another son, that's the true cause for celebration, said Lu Changsheng, waving his hand. Internally, he couldn't help but think that he still needed to temper his state of mind further, to be unshaken even if Mount Tai crumbled before him. Otherwise, if such situations became more frequent, it would be easy for others to detect something amiss. He walked into the birthing room, immediately spotting the midwife holding a swaddle. Congratulations, young master, it's a girl, the midwife said to Lu Changsheng. A girl, eh? That's good too, considering the previous 2 were boys, Lu Changsheng remarked, unfazed. He didn't have a strong preference for sons or daughters. He took the child from the midwife's arms. Perhaps because he had become a cultivator, had been practicing the immortal beauty technique, and due to the improved conditions for the child's mother during pregnancy, the child looked much cuter than an ordinary newborn, not as wrinkled. Even knowing that this child possessed a spiritual root, Lu Changsheng was very happy inside, but he didn't show it too obviously or distinctly at that moment. After looking at the child for a while, Lu Changsheng left and went to his study. The child's birth this time has prompted the system to give child money, indicating that the achievement of having a number of children with spiritual roots is different from the achievement of total number of children, he thought to himself. That's to be expected. The difficulty of having children with spiritual roots is noticeably higher. I wonder what the next number will be, 5? Or perhaps 10? Lu Changsheng pondered. He didn't dwell on it. If he fixated on such things, setting expectations in his heart would only make it easier to be disappointed. It was better to let things take their natural course. After all, even if the system didn't bestow child money, he would still want this child. Immediately, Lu Changsheng began the part he was most looking forward to. System, I want to draw a prize. Instantly. A pale red virtual prize will emerged. I wonder what he'll get this time, hopefully a magical treasure. Gazing at the prize will before him, Lu Chongsheng took a deep breath. Due to the 100 Refinements treasure body art, he now had a particularly strong desire for magical treasures. He wanted to see if he could get a magical treasure directly from the system will to practice the 100 Refinements treasure body art. After all, cultivation techniques could give him all kinds of strange and wonderful abilities. But as long as a magical treasure was decent enough, it would suffice for practicing the 100 Refinements treasure body art. Start the draw. With a thought, golden light began to spin on the pale red wheel. After waiting 5 seconds, the wheel gradually slowed down. Under Lu Changsheng's slightly nervous and anticipatory gaze, the golden light settled on other. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Goo Insect Peach Blossom Goo. The reward has been sent to the system space, and the host can check it at any time. A pattern resembling a butterfly with 2 peach blossom petals emerged from the big wheel, accompanied by a system notification sound. A Goo Insect, Peach Blossom Goo. Lu Chongsheng was somewhat surprised to see this reward. He wasn't too disappointed at not getting the cultivation technique or magical treasures he wanted. After all, he had been disappointed so many times before. A lottery drawing like this, how could it possibly go according to one's wishes? The days ahead were long, and there would be plenty of chances to draw prizes. As long as he worked hard, he would eventually get the rewards he wanted. He looked at the peach blossom goo in the system space. Goo Insect, Peach Blossom Goo, Quality, Sky Spirit Goo, Description, a peculiar goo created by the Peach Blossom Immortal, a cultivator of goo arts. It can improve the host's skin and enhance their charisma, creating an extremely attractive appearance to the opposite sex, and it can also increase the host's fortune in romantic affairs. Lu Chongsheng didn't know much about goo insects. He only knew that among the various arts of cultivation, there were factions similar to beast taming, such as poison goo, corpse refining, ghost nurturing, and so on. He hadn't really looked into this particular area. But, trusting the system, and seeing the word Sky Spirit Goo along with the description of its effects, he felt that this Peach Blossom Goo was not ordinary. It was definitely an exceptional goo insect. First the Immortal Beauty technique, and now this Peach Blossom Goo. Does this mean that in the future, I'm destined to rely on my looks to live a life of ease? Lu Chongsheng smacked his lips. Having experienced the changes brought on by the Immortal Beauty technique, he was quite looking forward to the effects of the Peach Blossom Goo and thought it was very good. After all, he had been practicing the Immortal Beauty technique for over 3 years to achieve such handsomeness. Now with the Peach Blossom Goo added to the mix, wouldn't he be the dream of millions of fairies in the cultivation world? Especially since the appearance enhancement from the Peach Blossom Goo was targeted at the opposite sex. Not only was it targeted at the opposite sex, but it could also enhance one's romantic fortune. Handsome, with good romantic luck, wouldn't that be a killer combination? It was simply made to measure for a future where he would be surrounded by wives and consorts, the nemesis of fairies and witches. Romantic fortune. Although the concept of fate is mentioned in the cultivation world, it is nebulous and mysterious, with no detailed explanations. Most books only mention that some people are born with great fate and can turn misfortune into blessing in whatever they do. They might even stumble upon treasures when leaving their homes, charging ahead on the path of cultivation, advancing triumphantly and rapidly. Even though this Peach Blossom Goo can't improve a person's overall fate, it can enhance someone's romantic fortune. I wonder if with this goo, my future cultivation journey will be blessed with continued romantic success. When the time comes, I should look into more about fate and information on goo insects. Lu Chongsheng thought to himself. Although he enjoyed reading various books, he only had surface-level knowledge about the concept of fate and topics like goo insects, which were considered unorthodox. Now that he had obtained this Peach Blossom Goo, he was thinking of delving deeper into related knowledge. Without further thought, Lu Chongsheng willed it, and extracted the Peach Blossom Goo from the system space. Chapter 60, Peach Blossom Goo. _1 As Lu Changxing extracted the peach blossom goo, a butterfly with wings that resembled two pinkish-white peach petals appeared out of thin air in front of him. This peach blossom goo was only the size of a thumb with a faint pink glow emanating from its delicate and tender body. Held in hand, it was extremely soft and slippery, just like holding two peach petals with hardly any weight. From its body, strands of refreshing and ethereal peach blossom fragrance wafted, invigorating the soul. Lu Changxing, holding the peach blossom goo in his hand, could clearly feel a kind and mysterious connection with it, much like he did when he acquired the 9 Netherhound. No need for any measures to tame or subdue, the system directly helped him tame and subdue it. And through the system, he knew that to control and command this goo creature, he needed to refine it. The method of refinement was also quite simple. Feed it with a drop of essence blood first, then gradually refine the goo with mental spirit and spiritual power. Having understood the basic usage of the peach blossom goo, Lu Changxing didn't hesitate. He forced out a droplet of blood from his fingertip and fed it to the peach blossom goo. The peach blossom goo had a sesame-sized mouthpiece that slowly licked when it saw the droplet of blood. After a moment, the peach blossom goo had consumed all of the essence blood. Lu Changxing then began to wrap the peach blossom goo in spiritual power, invading its body and will, refining it. For many goo cultivators, refining a goo worm was an extremely dangerous affair. Although the goo worm did not possess much intelligence, it still had life as a being and an inherent will to survive. Facing the cultivator's refining, it naturally resisted instinctively. Even some fierce and tyrannical goo worms would backlash against the refiner. However, this peach blossom goo was obtained by Lu Changxing through a system lottery, and there was already a slight intimate connection between them, so this problem didn't exist. Under his spiritual power refinement, the peach blossom goo not only did not resist in the slightest, but it even actively cooperated, allowing Lu Changxing's spiritual power to enter its body to be refined. Lu Changxing didn't have to exhaust his mental spirit to suppress the will of the peach blossom goo. An hour later. Phew! Lu Changxing looked at the partially translucent peach blossom goo in his hand and exhaled a long breath. It wasn't that the refinement was complete. But rather, his spiritual power was exhausted, and he needed to rest and recover it. If this peach blossom goo had not been obtained through the system lottery, with my current cultivation strength, I would not have been able to refine it at all, nor would it have been possible to succeed in the refinement, not to mention there might have been a backlash, injuring myself. He couldn't help but shake his head. For the past hour, he had used all his spiritual power to refine the peach blossom goo. Yet his spiritual power was depleted, and he had refined less than 1/10 of the peach blossom goo. Bear in mind, this was while the peach blossom goo was fully cooperative. If the peach blossom goo had offered even a slight resistance, he would have encountered an insurmountable challenge in refining it. However, this also shows that this peach blossom goo is even more extraordinary. It is not a goo that an ordinary energy refinement cultivator can come into contact with, and only a cheat like me, with the help of the system, could obtain something far beyond one's own stage, he mused. Now is a good time to restore my spiritual power and see what changes have occurred after my spiritual root advanced to 8th grade. Lu Changxing began to sit in meditation, cultivating and restoring his spiritual power. He also wanted to see what changes had taken place after his spiritual root progressed from 9th grade to 8th grade. An hour went by. Lu Changxing opened his eyes. After the meditation, he found that his cultivation speed had not significantly increased after his 9th grade spiritual root advanced to 8th grade. It had only improved by about 10%. The cultivation speed of an 8th grade spiritual root is almost 30% faster than that of a 9th grade spiritual root. With the previous addition from Shao Qi and Shao Shi Qi, my spiritual root was already close to 8th grade, so now with this daughter's boost, even though my spiritual root has advanced from 9th grade to 8th grade, the improvement isn't large. A cultivation speed increase of about 10% also implies that this child's spiritual root is a lower grade. Spiritual root, probably similar to Shao Shi Qi's, a 7th grade or 8th grade spiritual root, Lu Chongqing silently contemplated. But he didn't feel any sense of loss. After all, whether it was a 9th grade or 8th grade spiritual root, they both belonged to the lower grade spiritual roots. The difference between the two wasn't too significant. Thus, advancing from 9th grade to 8th grade spiritual root was unlikely to bring a dramatic qualitative change. However, Chuangsheng saw the advancement of his spiritual root from 9th grade to 8th grade as a milestone. At the very least, he had taken the first step. The first step in upgrading the spiritual root. In the future, as long as more children possess a spiritual root, his spiritual root would eventually be able to advance step by step, ascending from a lower grade spiritual root to middle grade, then upper grade. Even the legendary Earth Spirit Root, Heavenly Spiritual Root. Spiritual roots are not only related to the speed of cultivation but also to the bottlenecks in cultivation. After my 9th grade spiritual root advanced to the 8th grade, I wonder how much it will help me break through the bottleneck at the 4th level energy refinement. Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but think to himself. Beyond influencing the speed of cultivation, the grade of a spiritual root also affects the cultivation bottlenecks. The better the spiritual root, the weaker the bottleneck. Like now, he was stuck at the bottleneck of breaking through from the 3rd level energy refinement to the 4th level. But with a middle grade spiritual root, this bottleneck might not even exist. Previously, Lu Chongsheng read in a book that for spiritual roots of the level of Earth Spirit Root and Heavenly Spiritual Root, there is no such thing as a bottleneck from the entire Qi refinement all the way to the foundation establishment stage. It's a completely unobstructed journey of cultivation, and in the future, it would be possible to break through to the core formation stage. And to condense a superior gold core. Lu Chongsheng didn't continue to dwell on these thoughts as they were still far too distant from him. He rose from his study and went into the practice room to continue his cultivation and replenish his spiritual power. The next day, Lu Chongsheng got up and went to the library at Jianghu Villa, searching for books on the topics of destiny and the way of the Gu. However, within the Lu family, there were no books on the concept of destiny, and the Gu way was also not detailed in any of the books. Only in an ancient tome did he find a brief introduction to Gu insects. For example, the quality of Gu insects was divided into mundane Gu, spirit Gu, mysterious spirit Gu, earth spirit Gu, heavenly spirit Gu, and immortal Gu, 6 levels in total. With immortal Gu being of a level like that of the true spirit bloodline in demon beasts, it naturally belonged to the realm of legend. Even the earth spirit Gu and heavenly spirit Gu were the stuff of legends, extremely rare. This gave Lu Chongsheng a rough idea of just how precious the peach blossom Gu was. It was probably close to a 9 netherhound with a heavenly grade bloodline. Furthermore, Gu insects can continuously transform and grow, divided from low to high into first transformation, second transformation, third transformation, fourth transformation, fifth transformation. Corresponding to the cultivator's stages of Qi refinement realm, foundation establishment stage, core formation stage, nascent soul stage, divinity transformation stage. Like the peach blossom Gu that Lu Chongsheng acquired, it naturally belonged to the first transformation. In the time that followed, besides daily meditation and cultivation, talisman making, Lu Chongsheng also found time to refine and fuse with the peach blossom Gu. Thinking of quickly assimilating the peach blossom Gu to see its exact effects. After all, Lu Chongsheng was quite looking forward to improving himself and his peach blossom luck. Half a month later, Lu Chongsheng finally fully assimilated the peach blossom Gu. At this moment, he felt a strange connection with the peach blossom Gu in front of him. It was as if the peach blossom Gu had become a part of his body. At the same time, he came to understand the peach blossom Gu in detail. Peach blossom Gu feeds on peach blossom luck. The more prosperous the host's peach blossom luck, the faster the peach blossom Gu would grow. With every growth and transformation of the peach blossom goo, the host's peach blossom luck would become increasingly vibrant. However, the growth and transformation of the peach blossom goo would be impacted and limited by its master. If the master has not broken through to the foundation establishment stage, then no matter how much peach blossom luck the goo consumes, it cannot advance to second transformation. Currently, the peach blossom goo possesses 3 effects. The first 2 are the passive effects introduced in the system explanation before. It can subtly improve the host's physique, making the skin more radiant and the aura stand out, thus becoming more attractive to the opposite sex. Simultaneously, it unconsciously boosts the host's peach blossom luck. Both of these effects are passive. The first one will gradually show some effects. The second, peach blossom luck, is more elusive and intangible. The third effect of the peach blossom goo is an active one. By activating the peach blossom goo, it can release a fragrance known as 5-aggregates peach blossom miasma. This aroma has the effect of bewildering and enchanting the mind. Both people and animals, as well as plants, will be influenced. As for the impact, it depends on the strength of the goo insect. As the peach blossom goo is currently only at the first transformation, the power and effects of the 5-aggregates peach blossom miasma correspond to the qi refinement realm. Chapter 61, The father of 30 children breaks through to the 4th layer of qi refinement. _1, could it be that this peach blossom immortal is some kind of flower thief? Otherwise, what upstanding person would cultivate such a goo? Not only does it shape an attractive appearance to the opposite sex, but it also enhances one's peach blossom luck, and employs such despicable methods. Having fully grasped the effects of the peach blossom goo, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but shake his head. However, he did not mind these aspects. After all, whether something is good or bad depends on the user. Being an upright gentleman like himself, even if the peach blossom goo was indecent, he would put it to good use. The next moment, Lu Chongsheng put away the peach blossom goo. The peach blossom goo flew directly to the center of his forehead, forming a pink peach blossom petal mark on his brow. In the time that followed, this peach blossom goo would subtly improve his physical condition and imperceptibly boost his peach blossom luck. Lu Chongsheng touched the peach blossom mark on his forehead and, with a thought, the mark immediately dimmed and disappeared from view. Normally, if he didn't use the peach blossom goo, this peach blossom mark could stay hidden from view. It would only appear when he used the 5 accumulations peach blossom miasma. Otherwise, it would be rather odd, and somewhat effeminate, for a grown man to have a peach blossom mark on his forehead. I'm here on Jianghu mountain all day and never go out. I wonder if this peach blossom luck will be of any use? Thinking about that young miss, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but feel a sense of expectation. He left the practice room to see that the night had already grown dark outside. Lu Chongsheng went to a secluded courtyard, picked up Jiu'er and Shu'er, his 2 favored concubines, and carried them to the bedchamber to start his efforts. He had been giving both of them special attention lately, but neither had become pregnant yet. Lu Chongsheng was not concerned about this. He had checked and found nothing wrong with the women's health, they were fertile. With persistent efforts, success would come sooner or later. Moreover, such matters were not only about the results, but also about fully experiencing and savoring the process. Afterward, Lu Chongsheng lay back comfortably on the bedchamber, his palm gently stroking the 2 women's red and blue hair, as smooth as satin. Despite having shared the bed and been attended to many times over such a long period, he still found himself insatiable, feeling immense enjoyment. 6 days later, Lu Chongsheng found out that Shu'er had successfully conceived, and there was a new breath of life in her womb. Likewise, after his nightly unwavering efforts, 1 month later, Jiu'er also successfully conceived. Counting the children in the wombs of these 2 favored concubines, Lu Chongsheng calculated that the total number of his children was exactly 30. Not long ago, his 24th child was born. That meant that once the remaining 6 children were born, the system might give out child money. He was still very much looking forward to the system's child money. After all, at this stage, he couldn't count on his children at all, and could only rely on the system to lend him a hand. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. He had been refining the peach blossom goo for over 2 months now. At first, Lu Changsheng had been quite expectant of the peach blossom goo. But as the 2 months passed, he felt that he hadn't undergone any changes, nor had the so-called peach blossom luck appeared. This caused his anticipation to nearly vanish. He no longer paid any attention to the peach blossom goo. After all, in terms of appearance, he was already so handsome that any enhancement from the peach blossom goo would be just gilding the lily for him. As for peach blossom luck, such a nebulous thing wasn't something he had any expectations for. On this day, inside the practice room, while Lu Changsheng was sitting in meditation and refining qi, he suddenly felt a throb. The bottleneck where he had been stuck at the 3rd level energy refinement for a year finally showed a trace of loosening. The 4th elder had provided him with guidance on his cultivation practices, helping him understand that this sense of loosening was the opportunity to break through from the 3rd level energy refinement to the 4th level. He instantly took out a yellow dragon elixir from his storage bag and swallowed it, then grasped several spirit stones, closed his eyes to concentrate, and rapidly circulated the returning origin technique. No sooner had the elixir entered his body than it dissolved, rapidly depleting under the operation of spiritual power, as spiritual energy from the spirit stones in his hand surged into his body. Lu Changsheng's spiritual power circulated faster and faster, his spiritual pressure grew greater and greater, even carrying a sense of irresistibility. After a long time, boom! Lu Changsheng's entire body shook violently, his hair and vestment robe dancing. Filth was secreted from his pores, making his body suddenly feel as light as if it were floating. The spiritual energy in his Dantian sea was no longer strand by strand. Instead, it intertwined like streams. 4th level energy refinement, spiritual energy like streams, the body excretes worldly filth. I've finally broken through to the middle stage of energy refinement. Lu Changsheng opened his eyes, feeling the stream-like spiritual power circulating within him. A sense of joy naturally emerged. A year ago, he had already practiced up to the peak of the 3rd level energy refinement. But he had been stuck for a full year until today when he was finally able to break through. He felt that if it weren't for his 9th grade spiritual root advancing to an 8th grade more than 2 months ago, he would probably have been stuck for even longer. No wonder Hong Yi remained at the 3rd level energy refinement for 3 or 4 years without breaking through to the 4th level. Lu Changsheng also understood why Hong Yi had stayed at this realm for so long. In Jianghu Valley, he enjoyed the benefits of a 2nd grade spiritual vein. His meals consisted of jade bamboo rice, demon beast meat, and spiritual vegetables. He drank spiritual tea and occasionally indulged in spiritual wine, and every month he had a yellow dragon elixir to assist his cultivation. Even under these circumstances, he was still trapped by the bottleneck for so long. Although Hong Yi had an 8th grade spiritual root, in the secular world where spiritual energy was scarce and resources limited, and he was busy with errands, breaking through the bottleneck was even harder. This also made him think of Xiao Xia, who had broken through to the 4th level energy refinement during their 3-year agreement. Thinking about it now, it could only be said that a 4th grade spiritual root was truly terrifying. If it were an upper grade spiritual root, or the legendary earth spirit root, heavenly spiritual root, how terrifying they would be. Lu Changsheng didn't think too much about it, stood up, and used a cleansing technique to remove the impurities and filth excreted from his body during the breakthrough. Then he walked out of the practice room somewhat excitedly. It was winter at this time, and snowflakes were fluttering outside, with a layer of pure white snow covering the ground. Although his Jianghu robe offered protection against the heat and cold, the sudden opening of the door and the cold wind that blew in still made Lu Changsheng feel a hint of chill. But it was only a momentary chill. the spiritual power within his body and the vestment robe he wore made the cold dissipate immediately. Unknowingly, I've also been at the Lu family for 5 years. Lu Chongsheng looked at the green, vigorous, and sturdy Jianghu bamboos amidst the snowflakes. He thought of the time when he had awakened his previous lives' memories on the heart-questioning platform, after being eliminated by the Qingyun sects examination. He chose to become a son-in-law who entered the Lu family by marriage. Over the past 5 years, relying on his relentless efforts, he had cultivated from an ordinary person to the 4th-level energy refinement. He had also fought from being a breeding son-in-law in the Lu family to a son-in-law who married the granddaughter of an elder. Lu Chongsheng walked slowly to the front courtyard, seeing a few children in padded jackets running around in the snow playing. A faint smile appeared on his face. These were the fruits of his 5 years of hard work. Chapter 62, Daily Life _1 In the courtyard, a group of children were playing. Daddy. A little girl dressed in a red cotton padded jacket and fur coat, sitting on a swing and nibbling on a hawthorn stick, called out crisply when she saw Lu Chongsheng. She then hopped off the swing and ran to Lu Chongsheng with her little short legs, pitter-pattering away. She handed the hawthorn stick to Lu Chongsheng and said with a smile, "Daddy, it's so sweet." A smile spread across Lu Chongsheng's face as he tasted a hawthorn stick. Indeed, it was very sweet, sweet to the core. Casting a glance at Lu Pingan and his sons, who were playing joyfully with the 9 netherhound, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but huff in mock annoyance before scooping up his daughter. He held her slightly cold hands and said softly, "Come, it's cold outside, let's go play inside." Daughters really are more considerate. Lu Chongsheng carried his daughter, Lu Shila, into the main hall. There were several braziers placed on each side of the hall with charcoal burning to dispel the chill. His wives and concubines were happily chatting together. However, there were always a few toddlers who had just learned to walk wandering about. Not only did they seem like they could fall at any moment, but they also liked to pick up anything they saw and stuff it into their mouths, requiring constant vigilance. Dad Ada. At that moment, little Lu Xianxia rode over on a mechanical wooden horse and signaled to Lu Chongsheng to move aside. Lu Chongsheng saw this and stood his ground, refusing to move. Then Lu Xianxia charged at Lu Chongsheng with the mechanical wooden horse. The result was the whole person along with the mechanical wooden horse toppled over, leading to a fall on the ground with a pout forming on the little lips as if about to cry. Lu Chongsheng couldn't help laughing at the sight. He immediately manipulated the mechanical wooden horse with his object manipulating technique to move Dad Ada around his son. Lu Xianxia, who was about to cry, stopped upon seeing this scene. He climbed back onto the wooden horse and ran around happily under Lu Chongsheng's control, his face brimming with joy. This child had a spiritual root, but he was not precocious or particularly sensible and was just like a normal child. "Daddy, hug." Little Ten, who was playing nearby, saw Lu Chongsheng and staggered over with his little short legs, arms outstretched, asking. With one hand holding Lu Shila, Lu Chongsheng picked up Little Ten with the other. Seeing her holding a white jade bun, he said, "Give Daddy a bite." Little Ten thought for a moment, then lifted the bun in her hand to him. "Daddy will show you how to eat a big bun in one bite." Lu Chongsheng said and, in one bite, devoured the white jade bun that was as big as an adult's fist from Little Ten's hand. He astonished Lu Shila, Little Ten, and a few other small ones nearby, who all stared with wide eyes. But the next moment, Little Ten looked down at her empty hand. Where's my bun?" Looking at Lu Chongsheng smacking his mouth, she pursed her lips in a pout, her face on the verge of tears. It was as if she was saying, "You ate such a big bun all by yourself, without leaving me any. Husband, why do you always like to tease the children?" Lu Miaoyun, with her belly bulging, walked over and chided. Every time Lu Chongsheng came over, he would tease the children until they cried and then make them happy again. She thought he was truly idle to no end. Speaking of which, she took a white jade bun from a bamboo steamer nearby and handed it to little Ten, a motherly smile spreading across her face. Here, you are, be good, no crying. Kids are meant to be played with, Lu Chongsheng said nonchalantly, also taking a white jade bun to eat. The bun tasted very nice, made of flour ground from white jade spirit wheat. Now that he could afford it, aside from everyday meals, Lu Chongsheng would also buy lots of spiritual materials and spirit food to keep at home for his wife and children to enjoy some sweet treats, prepared by their maid, Jianghu. With such a diet every day and living on Jianghu Mountain, the health of his wives and the little ones had improved significantly, robustly vigorous. Not to mention, children brought up this way were bound to become martial arts prodigies as they grew up. Husband, your aura, you've broken through to the middle stage of energy refinement. At this moment, Lu Miaoyun looked at Lu Chongsheng, a touch of surprise on her face as she spoke. Having lived with Lu Chongsheng all the time, she naturally noticed the change in the spiritual power aura emanating from him, which had become much more substantial than usual. That's right, after grinding for so long, I've finally broken through this barrier, Lu Chongsheng said with a smile, nodding his head. Congratulations, husband, on breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement. Lu Miaoyun's face lit up with a smile. She hugged Lu Changsheng's arm and gave it a playful shake, her sparkling eyes full of admiration as she spoke. Congratulations to my husband. Congratulations to my husband on your breakthrough to the middle stage of chi refinement. Congratulations to my husband on another step forward on the path of immortality. A group of wives and concubines congratulated Lu Chongsheng one after another. Wow! Daddy is so amazing. Congratulations, Daddy. Congratulations, Daddy. The children, seeing their mothers doing so, also gathered around Lu Chongsheng, chirping and shouting excitedly. Lu Chongsheng laughed heartily. Then, with a smile all over his face, he waved his hand and said, "It's just the 4th level of energy refinement." He had to admit, the feeling of being adored and admired by his wives and children was quite pleasant. It satisfied his sense of male pride immensely. Every time, a sense of pride, happiness, and satisfaction would arise in his heart. Thereafter, Lu Chongsheng teased the children and chatted with his wives and concubines. This was his daily leisure time for relaxation. Otherwise, staying indoors every day, with nothing to do but cultivate and procreate, the dull life without other entertainment would be bearable for a short time, but truly grinding over the long term. The next day, Lu Chongsheng rubbed his lower back. The previous night, in celebration of his breakthrough to the middle stage of chi refinement, his wives and concubines bashfully fulfilled some of his requests. It left him almost without rest for the entire night. Your body is your capital for revolution, he sighed softly. Afterwards, he left home and went to the 4th elder's residence. Today wasn't the usual day at the end of the month when the 4th elder taught talisman making and cultivation. Rather, previously, the 4th elder had told him to inform her once he broke through to the 4th level of energy refinement. Although he did not know what it was concerning, having been instructed by his grandmother, Lu Chongsheng naturally made his way there. After all, this kind of matter wasn't something that needed to be hidden. Son-in-law, the old lady is currently crafting a talisman, and you might need to wait for a while, said the steward of the 4th elder's household, respectfully presenting tea to Lu Chongsheng. Purple bamboo granny, I'm not in a hurry, go ahead with your duties, Lu Chongsheng replied to the steward, accepting the tea. About half an hour passed. The 4th elder arrived in the hall. Her attire today was different from usual. She wore a lotus crown on her head and a blue-brown flowing cloud Daoist robe, resembling a female Daoist. She seemed to have shed some of her usual elegance and nobility, instead exuding an air of transcendence and quiet grace. Lu Chongsheng understood that his grandmother, although a top-level talisman master of the 1st grade, did not have a high success rate in crafting supreme talismans. Normally, when she needed to craft supreme talismans, she would choose an auspicious day. Then she would proceed with purification rituals, such as cleansing her body, face, hands, etc., and adjust her state to increase the success rate of talisman crafting. Her attire as a female Daoist was also part of her talisman crafting ritual. Lu Chongsheng rose and bowed in salute. "Grandmother." "Chongsheng, have you come to see your grandmother for a reason?" asked the fourth elder, smiling kindly at Lu Chongsheng. Lu Chongsheng had been married to Lu Miaoyun for more than half a year. In that half-year, the fourth elder had observed all of Lu Chongsheng's actions. Industrious and steady, neither arrogant nor impetuous, and especially gifted in talisman making. This made her increasingly satisfied with this grandson-in-law. She believed that marrying Lu Miaoyun to Lu Chongsheng was absolutely the right decision. She even started to become unconcerned about Lu Chongsheng having a multitude of wives and concubines. Because she had realized that Lu Chongsheng was not as she had known, immersed in the pursuit of female company all day. In this half-year, he had not neglected his talisman-making duties, and his performance only improved. Chapter 63, Managing the Spiritual Talisman Shop _1 HM? Chongsheng, have you broken through to the fourth level energy refinement? At this moment, fourth elder noticed the change in spiritual power emanating from Lu Chongsheng's body, her face revealing a surprised yet delighted expression. Although Lu Chongsheng had used the aura concealment technique to hide his internal spiritual power, his mastery of the technique was not profound, merely at the stage of basic proficiency. After all, once he had learned the basics of these fundamental spells, he did not spend too much time or thought on them. As fourth elder possessed the strength of the ninth level energy refinement, with careful observation, she could easily discern the changes in Lu Chongsheng's cultivation level. Yes, Chongsheng just broke through to the fourth level energy refinement yesterday, so I came today to inform grandmother. Lu Chongsheng nodded and responded aloud. Good, good, I didn't expect you to break through to the fourth level energy refinement so quickly, much faster than grandmother had anticipated, fourth elder said as she sat down next to the chair, smiling. Tell me, grandmother, said Lu Chongsheng, somewhat puzzled. What could someone at his level of fourth level energy refinement do? Our Lu family has a spiritual talisman shop in Nine Dragons Market, and I've been thinking of having you manage it, fourth elder stated. Manage the spiritual talisman shop? Lu Chongsheng was somewhat astonished upon hearing this. Being a cultivation family, the Lu family naturally had various sources of income. For instance, the mountainous green spiritual bamboo and Bu spiritual bamboo were among the family's main sources of income. The spirit rice, spirit vegetables, and spiritual medicine that they usually cultivated were also sold in the marketplaces in excess of their personal needs. That's why the Lu family also had their own shops in some marketplaces. He knew Nine Dragons Market was a large marketplace relatively close to Jianghu Mountain, established by the dominant power in the area, the Qingyun sect. Having been with the Lu family for so many years and entering its core circles, he had come to understand much more about the family's affairs. Families like the Lu family of Jianghu Mountain, although they claimed to be independent powers, were actually under the rule of the Qingyun sect. Every year, they were obliged to offer a tribute to the Qingyun sect. This was also why Lu Yuanding had been able to go to the Qingyun sect's mountains and recruit discarded disciples for marriage alliances. If you were a power with no connections to the Qingyun sect, would you dare to do such a thing? Back when the Lu family of Jianghu Mountain and the Chen family of Red Leaf Valley fought over the ownership of a spirit stone mine, both families' foundation establishment ancestors had taken action. In the end, it was an elder of Qingyun sect who intervened to mediate and called a halt to the conflict, telling both families to cease their fight. Of course, the final verdict was that the Qingyun sect took 40% of the mine's profits, leaving the remaining 60% to be evenly split between the Lu family and the Chen family, at 30% each. When Lu Chongsheng first heard about this, he couldn't help but sigh. Truly, power was the supreme rule. The Lu and Chen families fought to the death over the spirit stone mine's profits, and then the Qingyun sect simply came and took away 40%, with the two families daring not say a word. The fact that this spiritual talisman shop was located in Nine Dragons Market also indicated that among the Lu family's numerous shops, it was quite a decent one. Unexpectedly, Fourth Elder was actually suggesting to put such a shop under his management. Yes, I had previously left Miaoga in charge of the spiritual talisman shop, Fourth Elder confirmed. But as you know, Miaoga has now been promoted to middle-grade talisman master and is preparing to charge at the 7th level energy refinement, so she really doesn't have the time or energy to spare. That's why I thought of letting you learn to manage it, she continued. Your grandmother was somewhat apprehensive about you before, but now that you've broken through to the 4th level energy refinement, she feels much more at ease. Consider it a form of practice. Once you're familiar with it, grandmother will hand over the management of the spiritual talisman shop to you directly. The tasks are quite simple: keep an eye on the shop, replenish stock every month, and guide the apprentices occasionally. During this period, your grandmother will also provide you with an additional stipend. The Fourth Elder picked up the tea, took a gentle sip, and spoke slowly. In the Lu family, apart from Lu Changsheng, there are a total of 3 talisman masters. Her, Lu Miaoga, and a Lu family disciple who had recently advanced to an elementary talisman master. Now Lu Miaoga needs to concentrate on talisman making and spend time cultivating. She simply doesn't have much leisure time to manage the shop. That Lu family disciple has only just become an elementary talisman master, clearly not suitable. And Lu Changsheng is not only a middle-grade talisman master but also her grandson-in-law. She has been quite satisfied with his performance over the past 6 months, essentially recognizing Lu Changsheng as one of her own. So she thought of entrusting the shop to Lu Changsheng. That would spare them the trouble of hiring a talisman master to preside over the shop. And it would also give Lu Changsheng a chance to get involved with the Lu family business, to gain experience and to have a look around outside. After hearing the Fourth Elder's words, Lu Changsheng's first impulse was to refuse. He just wanted to live a stable and low-key life in the Lu family. But with the Fourth Elder putting it that way, it would be hard for him to refuse when he had no good reason to do so. After all, in a cultivation family like the Lu family, members enjoy the benefits and treatment the family provides. At a certain age and level of power, they all have to contribute to the family. People like Lu Miaoga, who are talented and also possess an aptitude for talisman making, and who is the daughter of the family head, are no exception. Since he married Lu Miaoyun, he was now considered a member of the Lu family and naturally could not avoid such matters. Moreover, the Fourth Elder intended to entrust him with managing the spiritual talisman shop, which was a kind gesture for his benefit. It would not only bring him an additional income but also put him in charge of some business. He would get to know more things, and his status within the Lu family would also rise significantly. Changsheng will abide by grandmother's arrangements, Lu Changsheng said after a moment of thought, bowing in response. He also understood that it was unrealistic for him to expect to stay in the Lu family indefinitely without stepping outside or doing anything and still advance to foundation establishment. Since that was the case, he might as well agree. Nine Dragons Market, established by Qingyun sect, was a large marketplace with foundation establishment great cultivators standing guard. Inside the market, few dared to cause trouble. If he were to manage the spiritual talisman shop, he wouldn't need to worry too much about danger. Furthermore, taking care of the shop would mean an extra source of income. And with the thousands of talismans he had stored, he would find it easier to sell them. When it came to buying materials for cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, it would be much more convenient. In the past 6 months, during his talisman trade with Hong Yi's appointed persons, he also asked Hong Yi to purchase materials on his behalf. But it was not only time-consuming, the materials he needed were not always available, and the back-and-forth communications were extremely inconvenient. If he went to Nine Dragons Market himself, buying whatever materials he wanted in the future would become very convenient. The only downside was that life in Nine Dragons Market wouldn't be as comfortable as it was now. Without the benefits of a second-grade spiritual vein and his wives not by his side, he would fall behind in childbearing. However, if he went to the market, he could also look into taking a few fairies with spiritual roots as concubines. After all, when it comes to having children, especially those with spiritual roots, taking concubines is necessary. Perhaps his useless peach blossom goo might prove to be somewhat effective. At the moment, Lu Chongqing felt that he hadn't encountered any romantic luck simply because he never left the house, thus the peach blossoms couldn't find their way to him. Alright, then it's settled. When Miaoge returns in a few days, you'll go with her, the fourth elder agreed with a smile. Yes, grandmother, Lu Chongqing nodded in agreement. Afterwards, he took 2 boxes of spirit fruit pastries back home from the fourth elder's house. Chapter 64, The Hardworking Li Feiyu _1 After returning home, Lu Chongqing spoke to his wives and concubines, including Lu Miaoyun and Chu Xinjun, about his plans to travel to Nine Dragons Market in some time. His wives and concubines reacted with mixed feelings upon hearing this news. They were pleased that Lu Chongqing was taking responsibility for the family's enterprise, which was a good thing and demonstrated the Lu family's esteem for him. The worry stemmed from the fact that Lu Chongqing would be away from home for a long while, which was quite hard for them to bear. The Nine Dragons Market is not far from Jianghu Mountain. When the time comes, I can return home once a month, just like the young miss. Once your husband gets acquainted there, I will take you out for a visit too. Lu Chongqing said to his wives and concubines. He had always found life in Jianghu Valley somewhat dull and boring. The wives and concubines naturally felt the same. Therefore, if it turned out to be relatively stable in Nine Dragons Market, he thought of bringing a few of his wives and concubines over to stay and have fun, as a way to unwind. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. The women were very happy to hear this. Husband, take Xiaoqing with you when you go, suggested Lu Miaoyun. That way, you'll have someone to look after you. Lu Miaoyun spoke up to Lu Chongqing at this point. I'm a grown man, I don't need anyone to look after me. Besides, you need Xiaoqing to serve you right now, he replied with a wave of his hand, indicating he didn't need her to come. Husband, just take Xiaoqing with you. If I can't accompany you, let Xiaoqing be by your side, please. Lu Miaoyun immediately bit her tender lip, her large watery eyes gazing at Lu Chongqing. At the same time, she gently shook his arm while leaning against him, cooing sweetly in a tender and charming voice. Alright, I'll take her, just as you wish, Yuner. Lu Chongqing had always been a man to yield to gentleness rather than force. Seeing his wife's coquettish pleading, he indulgently agreed right away. He guessed that Lu Miaoyun wanted him to take Xiaoqing not only for her company but also to have someone keep an eye on him. To prevent him from flirting with other women outside and bringing back a flock of women. However, Lu Chongqing didn't mind, he felt it would be fine to take Xiaoqing along. It is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but difficult to go from luxury to frugality. He had been served by others for years and would indeed feel unaccustomed in a place without someone to serve him. Having his own person by his side would be convenient. Moreover, if he really wanted to take additional concubines, it would make no difference whether Xiaoqing was with him or not. But let's first see what the situation is like over there before deciding. We don't even know what it's like right now, Lu Chongqing said, pinching his wife's cheek. After all, he was going there for business. Bringing a maidservant without knowing anything about the situation would seem as if he were going for pleasure rather than business, and it would leave a poor impression. Seeing her husband agree, Lu Miaoyun immediately gave a sweet and slightly naive smile. She also understood that preventing her husband from taking new concubines was impossible. But as a woman and a wife, it wasn't possible to just watch and do nothing either. That night, Knowing that Lu Chongsheng would leave home in a few days, all his wives and concubines lovingly attended to him with tender care. After 6 months of cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, nourishing himself with dietary delicacies, and spiritual wine, as well as breaking through to the 4th level energy refinement, Lu Chengsheng's combat abilities had also greatly increased. However, faced with the devoted affections and relentless attentions of his wives and concubines, Lu Chongsheng was still overwhelmed. He even suspected that his wives were using this method to remind him not to flirt or take new women in 9 Dragons Market. Once I get to 9 Dragons Market, I should put in more effort to complete the 100 refinements treasure body technique as soon as possible, he thought. Otherwise, if I return home every month, I won't be able to withstand it, and he'll have no face to take concubines or bring new women back home. Lu Chongsheng lay on his bed, silently musing. The following day, Lu Chongsheng suddenly remembered his transaction of talismans with Hong Yi. Every 3 months, Hong Yi would send someone to trade talismans, and there was a little over a month left until the next trade. If he went to 9 Dragons Market, he very likely wouldn't be at home when the time came. So, Lu Chongsheng informed Lu Miaoyun about the talisman trade and gave her 30 pre-drawn talismans. He told her to handle the trade with Hong Yi's envoy when they arrived. Selling some low-quality talismans to a friend isn't something worth hiding. The Lu family knows, then they know, Hong Yi thought to himself. Moreover, Hong Yi felt that the Lu family might have known about his affair for quite some time. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoyun was very clever in her response, assuring Hong Yi that he could rest easy. Afterward, Hong Yi went to Jianghu Villa, thinking of having a chat with Li Feiyu to see how he had been recently. However, when he arrived at Li Feiyu's home, Li Feiyu was not there. Li Feiyu's wife told Hong Yi that Li Feiyu had gone farming. Surprised by this news, Hong Yi was astonished. After chatting with Li Feiyu's wife, he learned that a few months earlier, after Li Feiyu had become proficient as a spiritual butcher, he also mastered the skills of a spirit planter, the minor cloud rain technique and the Gengjin technique. He then took a job as a spiritual farmer from Uncle Fu. Not only that, sometimes Li Feiyu would also take on work for refining and processing materials. Many low-grade spiritual materials, due to the large amount of impurities they contained, could not be used directly. Therefore, a job was created for cultivators to use their spiritual power to cleanse and refine the materials continuously, removing the impurities. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi didn't know what to say for a moment. He couldn't help but sigh, thinking that cultivation was hard, but survival was even harder. Yet, he also faintly understood that Li Feiyu was working so hard not only to support his family, but also to prepare for the day when he would leave the Lu family. After all, the work of a spiritual butcher alone would be enough for Li Feiyu to support his family. Around noon, Li Feiyu returned, covered in dust and clearly weary, but his eyes were bright and full of energy. Back when he was with the Lu family, he only had the task of having children every day. Now, no longer bound by that duty, his life was hard, but at least it offered a glimmer of hope. After all, the most frightening thing for people is to see no hope at all. Chongsheng, what brings you here? Li Feiyu was surprised to see Hong Yi at his home. I just came to see how you're doing, Hong Yi said with a smile. He then told Li Feiyu that he would leave the Lu family in some time to head to the 9 Dragons Market. If there was anything Li Feiyu needed, he could make purchases on his behalf. Though Jianghu Villa had 100 treasures pavilion, from Hong Yi's perspective, the selection of items available for purchase was quite limited. At the Lu family, valuable items required an application and expenditure of family contributions. Li Feiyu, of course, had nothing to buy. He simply told Hong Yi to be careful outside, and shared some experiences and precautions for traveling out in the world. While what Li Feiyu spoke about pertained to the secular world of martial artists, these principles were equally applicable in the cultivation world. Then, Hong Yi also told Li Feiyu that if there was anything he needed help with, he shouldn't hesitate to ask, and not be embarrassed about it. It would be a real loss if Li Feiyu were to wear himself out with his efforts in the Lu family. Upon hearing this, Li Feiyu somewhat awkwardly requested to borrow some spirit stones. He explained that while working as a spiritual butcher, he learned that the Lu family raised a type of spiritual hog known as black hogs. These black hogs could be sold for around 50 spirit stones each after 3 years of raising. In the past 6 months, he had mastered the breeding process and methods for these black hogs and wished to raise 2 on his own. But the cost for 1 piglet was 6 spirit stones, and he currently did not have enough initial capital, only managing to spare 4 spirit stones. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi couldn't help shaking his head, thinking how determined Li Feiyu was. Not only was he juggling his role as the spiritual butcher and spirit planter, but he was also planning on raising 2 spiritual hogs. However, he also knew that with Li Feiyu's current circumstances, hard work and effort were his only options for cultivation. Right away, Hong Yi took out 20 spirit stones and lent them to Li Feiyu. Hong Yi's personal income at the Lu family amounted to roughly 10 spirit stones monthly. In addition, completing his talisman-making tasks granted him another 10 spirit stones each month, and he could often turn in an extra 3 to 5 talismans for about another 10 spirit stones. Moreover, every 3 months, Hong Yi could also expect over 40 spirit stones from Hong Yi. Therefore, his current income was quite substantial. So, he was able to lend some spirit stones to help Li Feiyu. But Li Feiyu only borrowed 10, stating that 10 would be sufficient, and he could repay them once the spiritual rice from the spirit fields was ready to be harvested. Hong Yi didn't say much in response, understanding Li Feiyu's character. Later, after having a meal at Li Feiyu's place, the 2 men enjoyed some spiritual wine and chatted before Hong Yi took his leave. Chapter 65, The Gift. _1 Before long, more than half a month had passed. One day, the steward from the 4th elder's residence came and requested Lu Changsheng's presence. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng immediately followed the steward to the 4th elder's dwelling. As soon as he entered the hall, he saw the 4th elder talking with Lu Miaoge about something. He approached, and with a slight bow, said, "Grandmother, Sister Miaoge." Having studied talisman making under the 4th elder for so long, his manner of addressing Lu Miaoge had also changed, becoming much more intimate. However, this intimacy was not the kind he desired. "Changsheng, you are here." Seeing Lu Changsheng arrive, the 4th elder smiled and nodded, saying, "I have already discussed with Miaoge the matter of you accompanying her to manage the spiritual talisman shop in the 9 Dragons Market. You will follow my Ayage's arrangements when the time comes. She will also be in the 9 Dragons Market for the next period, so you should ask her for advice often." So said the 4th elder. "Yes, grandmother." Lu Changsheng nodded and turning towards Lu Miaoge, bowed again, "I'll be relying on Sister Miaoge from now on. It's no trouble." Lu Miaoge gently shook her head, her voice always soft-spoken and gentle as water. "Changsheng, you rarely go out, so for this trip, grandmother has prepared some gifts for you," the 4th elder said to Lu Changsheng. In the midst of her words, she took out 3 brocade boxes of different sizes from her storage bag and placed them on the table. Thank you, grandmother." Lu Changsheng's eyes brightened upon hearing this, curious about the 4th elder's gifts. His grandmother was an elder of the Lu family, a top-level talisman master of the 1st grade, her gifts would certainly be generous. "Open them and see," the 4th elder said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoge also looked on curiously, wondering what gifts her great-aunt had prepared for Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng opened the first long-shaped brocade box. Inside lay a 3-foot-long sword in a green scabbard, with a tassel of green threads. This magical sword is named Green Face, and it is a middle-grade magic artifact. However, it contains a trace of green goldstone, making its sharpness far superior to others of its grade and very suitable for you to use now. The fourth elder introduced. Lu Chongsheng was surprised as he looked at the green-face sword in front of him. He had not expected his great-aunt to be so generous as to gift a middle-grade magical instrument. Lower-grade magical instruments typically cost around 50 spirit stones. Middle-grade magical instruments cost around 150 spirit stones. Although after breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement, one can employ a middle-grade flying sword, many cultivators at the late stage of energy refinement cannot afford, or are unwilling to purchase, a middle-grade magical instrument. Like those 3 robber cultivators he had killed on Bullhead Mountain, they had the cultivation levels of the 6th and 7th level of energy refinement, yet they all wielded lower-grade magical instruments. And this green-face sword was clearly not just an ordinary middle-grade magical instrument. Its price was likely around 200 spirit stones. "Thank you, grandmother." Lu Chongsheng expressed his thanks and picked up the magical sword. It was slightly heavy and cool to the touch, the scabbard was entirely green like jade. The scabbard bore gold inlaid patterns, and the tassel was gold, clearly decorative additions made afterward. Magical swords like this one can generally change in size according to one's will. Seeing this style of magical sword, he knew that it was not in the same league as the flying sword he had obtained from Bullhead Mountain. It was clearly a high-end flying sword. Because with flying swords, the most common feature is sharpness, practicality. Only high-end flying swords would have effort put into their appearance. Lu Chongsheng pulled the sword from its sheath. The blade was entirely silver-white, but the surface had a faint halo of green-gold flowing over it, the cold light flickering. The fourth elder smiled and directly opened the second brocade box. Within the second box lay an exquisite and majestic vestment robe, with the light shimmering over its sky-blue fabric, edged with gold embroidery. For managing the shop on this outing, you should dress well to reflect your status. This is a middle-grade magical robe with a total of 7 magical array effects: size adjustment, dust avoidance, springtime warmth, wind transformation, concealment, spirit concentration, and body protection. I won't go into detail about the first 3 effects, as they are similar to the ones on your current Jianghu robe. Wind transformation allows fierce winds to be softened into gentle breezes. Grandma has applied for an iron feather eagle from the family for you, so your future travels to and from the 9 Dragons marketplace will be much more convenient. The wind transformation effect of this robe will allow you to ride the iron feather eagle without being affected by strong winds, without the need to expend mana to resist them. Grandma knows you don't like to show off. The concealment function allows the robe's radiance to be contained, making it appear like ordinary clothing and not attracting attention. The spirit concentration effect can gather a small scope of concentrated spirit energy, which is somewhat helpful for your cultivation. The body protection effect can passively trigger a body protecting technique when you're in danger, capable of blocking a single hit from a cultivator at the 7th level. When Lu Chongsheng was on Bullhead Mountain, the fourth elder spoke slowly, introducing the magical gains amounted to roughly 500 spirit stones. Upon hearing this, which was already a considerable face lit up with surprise. But at this moment, a middle-grade magical directly presented him with gifts worth over 700 spirit stones, a truly grand by Lu Yuanding for being the first child born into the Lu family. This gift made Lu Chongsheng count as a lower-grade magical instrument. He bowed and earnestly said, "It had only 3 basic effects." Indeed, it was because he had valued that the Lu family, and the fourth elder before him, treated him so well. But this middle-grade magical robe boasted many things are judged by actions rather than intentions. For more than the original, and at least the kindness of the fourth elder before him was wind transformation, concealment, all this, and Lu Chongsheng remembered in his heart, especially body protection. We're all family here. The ability to passively trigger a body protective something to her grandson, the fourth elder said a single hit from a cultivator at the middle stage of energy refinement. Lu Chongsheng looked at the fourth elder and showed a sincere smile. With this nodding his head and he no longer had to worry about being ambushed by other martial artists. Do you recognize these 3 talismans? Thank you. The fourth elder pointed to the 3 talismans in the brocade box in gratitude once again. You're tuning into the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. In this moment, he couldn't help but feel appreciative of his grandmother's journey to catch the most captivating stories. A middle-grade magical instrument was worth 150 spirit stones. That usually referred to magical swords and the like.